Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we talk about an anime that we recently watched. We discuss it like we're a book club. We turn our comment section over to you to tell us why we're right, why we're wrong. That's going to come up tonight. And or anything that you would like to add to the discussion, because we're all Bakas when it truly comes down to it. Isn't that true? All right. To help me discuss the second half of Frieren Beyond Journey's End, episodes 15 through 28, I need the help of my co-host. First off, we have the guy you're all here to write a bad comment about. It's Jeremy.
Hey, I'm here. My hot take. This is season 1, core 2 of Frieren. Kind of like a soap opera.
Name a soap opera you've watched. I don't want you to just name a soap opera that you watched.
That heart one. Oh God, Tanya was watching it like 3 days ago, and it drives me nuts. I hate it.
Okay, all right, that's fair. I'm gonna give it to you.
General Hospital?
When comes the heart?
Oh,
When comes the heart?
You could have said anything. I was
100% hoping he was going to say Telemundo. But
Well, I mean, I could have said General Hospital or something, but I didn't want to.
I remember my mom used to get really into Days of Our Lives long ago. That's the only time I've ever been exposed
that
to.
fits.
Yeah, right.
No, I wanted to say one I genuinely have seen tons of episodes of, not by choice.
Fair enough. I called your bluff, and you went all in. You win. We also have the other guy on the podcast. It's Jason.
Woo! Thanks for the intro.
And
I'm
what's
not
your
sure
hot
what's
take?
worse. I'm not sure what's worse, the insult one, or just like, it's that guy. He happens to show up sometimes.
I have a new puppy, and I've been too busy to think of anything besides cleaning up pee spots.
Which looks adorable, by the way.
Yeah.
I think with few exceptions, anime should not go over 80 episodes. And anything over that, it's boring.
I agree, but I'd say 100. I think that's
Just
like
as a nice
5.
round number.
I was also considering 100, but yeah, I think anime that go too long overstay their welcome.
I mean, 120 is probably okay.
10 seasons or 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do 5 seasons. If past 5 seasons, I think I'm tapping out pretty soon.
I could probably do 140.
Sold.
I just want to see how flexible we are on this.
I do think I'd prefer 4, which would be not doing
48
that
episodes.
No,
Right?
no.
You think
Let's say it's
doubles?
a 24 episode season. 4
Oh,
seasons.
okay. So that's 100.
Yeah.
It's like 96. Right.
Right. Thank you.
But like by the end of season 3, I'm like, okay, let's wrap this up. Like
it's a 3 arc story.
yeah.
I can see that.
My Hero Academia, I think, is going to go 8 seasons total.
I don't know. I've heard so many
And like
times
45 movies.
it's ending this time.
No, it ended. The manga. Okay, I've been reading mangas.
Okay.
The final battle just had the final blow. There's still definitely an epilogue, and literally no one knows how long that's going to go. But there is no more fight. Fight is done. So we're wrapping up My Hero Academia, the manga, and the anime is only
But
they're one arc behind the main manga.
what are they gonna do with Iron Man All Might? Like,
Oh, dude. They
Spoilers.
Can go,
What? That's a huge spoiler.
oh,
All
my
Might-
bad.
All Might Beyond Journey's End. There you go.
And that would be the hit anime of the season, right?
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, probably.
My name is
Detroit
Troy.
Smash.
My hot take is new puppies are hard to take care of. No. It's actually going really well. But I didn't think of a hot take at all.
This what?
I know.
You
I didn't
can't
remember we were
lie.
doing hot takes till Jeremy said something.
Oh, I would have happily not given
I
one.
know. I thought about stopping you, but you seemed so energetic about it.
Smash, Frieren, smash.
Okay. Not an anime hot take. I know you were dying to maybe mini rant. I complained that I feel extremely old when I see Lord of the Rings, and it's frickin' 2001 it came out, and I'm like, are you kidding? It's over 20 years old.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
The rant was you're talking about how like the special effects look so good, and they
It
do.
looks-
Like
yeah.
it's pinnacle, but
Timeless.
people don't understand why special effects look so bad now, and it has nothing to do with like it didn't get worse. Things just got rushed. Everything's rushed nowadays.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings went over time and over budget, like huge over budget. It was a huge risk for the studio, and it worked out for them. But studios don't want to do that every single day. They can't take that risk, especially if they don't have a property that they know is going to sell. Even Marvel movies don't make good money these days. Who knows what's going to happen? It's just not what people think it is.
I wonder when, after Lord of the Rings, when is the next equivalent like over time, over budget movie that's actually taken that risk?
Well, I would say the Marvel movies when they first started themselves were pretty risky, right?
I could see that. Yeah,
that's them
That's
starting
fair.
out as a brand. Marvel starting its own studio,
Mm-hmm.
going with no heroes that no one knew at the time. You know, no one cared about Iron Man or Captain America. If you're not Spider-Man or the X-Men,
Mm-hmm.
you weren't cared about by Marvel.
It'd be an interesting thing to see outside of Marvel or after Marvel, if that's been the case. Because I know Marvel's just kind of touched everything, and not for the better nowadays.
yeah, for sure. As much as I love the MCU, I still love it, and what it did, I think, is an amazing achievement in film and cinema. But yeah, there's definitely now been a watering down of things, as everyone said, copy, paste. The reason I've been thinking about this lately and why I'm ranting is James Gunn making the new Superman movie, and he talked about how he's editing, and people are like, why are you already editing? I thought you were just started filming. He's like, I edit while I film because I need to give my special effects team as long as possible. So I edit right away, throw them and say, hey, start this now. That way they're not waiting until I'm all done with my entire creative process, and then they have to be done in 2 weeks. And James Gunn, maker of Guardians of the Galaxy, always comes out looking good. I kind of take that at face value as the right way to do it at this point. But we'll see how Superman comes out.
I wonder if he'll start using AI. I bet more and more of them are going to start doing that. It's going to be interesting.
I think as a tool, it definitely will be very helpful and needed.
Yeah, I mean it's a force multiplier in every field now. It's like starting to pop up everywhere. I just can't even. I'm shocked when I go to like meetings and stuff at my job, and it's in everything. It's in Zoom.
Even my job, I'm in the medical industry, and it's there too. Okay.
Yep. Sorry,
we're an anime podcast.
AI anime.
Hey, new listener who's like, what?
What am I listening to?
We're here to talk about Frieren and
how AI has affected her.
Yes. It could get, that would be better.
No, Jason.
No. Yes.
We need a non-spoiler review. What did you think of the second half of Frieren?
It's just a fantastic storytelling experience. This is not your standard, I'm going on an adventure, I'm going to slay all the things, and then I save the girl. This is very much the 28 episode epilogue that Jeremy was talking about. But this takes a different mindset to sit down and watch. And the reason is because there is so much visual storytelling that it's just a joy to intake. And this side of the story really focused on, because in the first half, we really talked about like the idea of time and the passage of time and what happens to basically an immortal when they have to deal with that. And on this side, we're more playing with the idea of what happens when two ages are overlapping. One age is coming to a close and one age is starting. I love the way that they play with that idea. I also love the way the story unfolds in this half. So, yeah, really enjoyed myself.
Jeremy, before you go, we need to address the elephant in the room. On our website, under Frieren Beyond Journey's End, the
I didn't think you
description
guys
reads,
read these.
and we're back with Frieren in this 28 episode post-credits sequence. This message is approved by Jeremy. What do you have to say for yourself, man?
I'm proud of myself.
Finger on the scale much?
I tried to put a little something up for every single, upcoming episode, and I thought long and hard for this one. I was like, what do I want to say?
1, I definitely laughed. 2, how dare you?
How dare you?
Yes.
All right. Can you give us your review of the second half of Frieren?
Can you kick people from Zoom? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. So it's not as bad as the first half. It's a little bit more palatable. But I think the issue I have with it is I know the stakes from the first half. And so even though it's got some cool fight sequences, it's got the cool tournament and you get to explore how the magic system works a little bit more and you get to meet more characters. Ultimately, I know that this entire thing is by choice. They really don't need to do it. There's very little consequence. They could turn around and find a different way to get to the solution that they need. So I'm still left with kind of the same problem that I had in the first half, which is the sole reason they're doing this is because she needs to find closure. And that just doesn't work for me. It was more entertaining. It was pretty. I like the magic system somewhat. I have some complaints about it. Surprise, surprise. But yeah, I don't know. There was nothing here that really blew my mind or got me thinking deeply about things. There were several times where I was thinking, wow, they spent this much time trying to console each other. They spent this much time talking about food and preserving flavor over generations.
Oh,
Wow, this is what am I watching this for? Anyways, that's my spoiler-free review. I don't think I hit anything that was of substance or mattered. So, okay.
I was telling these guys, this is one of those anime that I've enjoyed so much that other anime are going to suffer going forward because there's a lot of meat on the bone. For me, there's themes, there's layers and complex characters. I think about character actions and why they do that, and I come up with my own solutions. And maybe I'm jumping to my own conclusions, as Jeremy always thinks I am, or maybe it's author intent. But the fact that there's room there to grasp at those straws, I enjoy. With that said, I didn't enjoy the second half as much as the first half. I kind of enjoyed the meandering a lot more than I did this more focused storytelling. But it still had very poignant themes and reasons for telling the story, and it definitely, it's a very minor quibble of like, oh, I don't want to focus on a tournament arc, but there is a tournament arc that happens. I think it's not really needed in this anime, but they did it quite well for me. I do want to address that Jeremy, first of all, bravo, sir, because we've all been in the seat of the bad guy and the one who hated it. Space Dandy for some.
This anime needs a villain, so here I am.
Hush you.
Space Dandy should never have been made.
Space Dandy was beautiful.
Thus, and I'm sure it's something I didn't like that was also good. I can't think of anything, but
of course you wouldn't.
No, but we've all been in the, with three of us, someone has to be a minority a lot of the time. So I think he's handling it really well. And those who commented, nothing mean has been said. But keep in mind, it's hard to be the minority there. I found a Reddit page where someone was like, "Why do people like this?" And a lot of people were like, "It's boring. I'm not finding flavor. I'm not finding what's exciting about it." And what's funny about that is I was coming with praise for it, and my praise is, as a fantasy series, I love that it's not just escapism, that there's exploration of humanity and things like that being done. But to be honest, the main role of the genre fantasy is to be escapism for people. And I don't think that this is serving that purpose very well, compared to a lot of other fantasy. That's not here to just have cool warriors doing cool things against cool bad guys. And I think that is the main reason that fantasy exists. Not the only reason. And like I said, I like that they did this. But I think those people like Jeremy who feel that way, I think that's fair to be acknowledged. Now, when he talks about characterization doesn't matter or stuff like that, that's the ravings of a mad. Ravings of a madman is what I wanted to say.
It's also hyperbole. It's just my way of saying too much emphasis is put on this at the expense of other things I would be more interested in seeing. Like, let's get that balance a little closer.
Yeah, I had seen a random Reddit page about Frieren. I clicked on it and I was seeing people, and it really made me think about your point of view. And like I said, what I was coming to praise it for, and that was literally my line. Like, I'm so glad it's fantasy that's doing more. And I'm like, what? But honestly, that is not fantasy's role. That's not what they're here for. So I have to say, Jeremy has a little bit of a point. Everything else, I think,
I win.
Broad. No,
I win.
I wouldn't go that far.
No.
You get an asterisk, sir, in the bibliography.
Oh.
Okay. However, if you're someone like me, this is the kind of stuff that you like. This is top tier. This is grade A Wagyu beef, and now you have to go back to eating normal hot dogs, and it's gonna be weird. All right. The new opening and closing. I know that didn't start right away from where we left off, but your guys' thoughts on the new opening and closing.
The new opening was okay. I did like the song. However, it did feel more serialized than the first half. It felt very much, these are the characters that are in this season, and here's the people that you know, and let's get going. It didn't have the punch and the coolness of the first side. I did like the ED, however. The song was okay, but the visuals were neat. I liked watching the stop animation.
The stop animation was cool,
yeah. I also like, I don't know, it just feels real reflective, if you will. Like, Frieren's just kind of pondering. I don't know, almost seems like an imaged into her mind.
I think that's probably the best way to describe it, is that Frieren was pondering. And
actually,
that sums this anime up so well.
Oh my goodness. No, but it's not my turn. I'll wait.
Yay! I get to blaspheme for a moment more against your anime.
Remember at the beginning I was nice to you. I just want that said.
I know. I appreciate it. I actually I didn't like this OP as much as the previous one, but it still wasn't bad. It was fine. The ED I liked more, which is funny because it was basically the same ED. I mean, it even starts with like, "Yes, I am okay" or something instead of "Are you okay?
Are you all right?"
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. It was like, "I'm fine and I can hear you." And
Is this a cell phone commercial?
I know, right? Nokia. And so I really, I found it odd that I liked this one more than the previous one, because substance wise, it's basically the same song. It's the counterpoint to the other song, the answering call. But it made me think of Dororo's opening. And there's something about the quality of the vocals that is very similar, even though the Dororo singer is a guy. There's a way that they control their voice that is just really unique and very interesting. And I have to say, I didn't mention that last time, but it's striking, and it is something that's really cool about the ED. Even though it's whiny, And the whininess kind of is rough for me. There's something about the vocals that is really cool. And the visuals were very cool.
I'm in the boat with these guys. The opening, it tees up some of the action that's coming in the episodes, kind of shows off all these new characters that are coming, but probably won't stick with me as much. That ending though, man. And it's more than just, so we have Frieren on a grave alone, and then a bunch of stuff happens with a silver butterfly, which signifies another main character, and then at the end those two come together. The butterfly turns into that character, and then she's sitting on the same hill with that character. Now, does that mean that the grave is that character's grave in the future, or is it Himmel's grave? And it's just showing how she has gone from one love to this child she's raising. And the guys, look, the lyrics are Frieren to Himmel. About like, I would, if I had to redo a point in time, it would be this time that we had together, and how it is, and it shows
Beautiful.
up at the final episode, and it hits so dang hard, way more than it does even in the ED. But okay, it's good stuff. Hey, guess what we're gonna watch next, guys?
Not Frieren.
Mashle.
Mashle.
Yeah. We're gonna watch season 1 first.
Yep.
And then season 2.
Yep. So just the first 12 season 1, 12 episodes. It is about think Harry Potter, but One Punch Man. Literally, like, he's so strong, but he can't do magic, but no one can tell because he's so strong.
Yep. I remember you mentioned this anime a long time ago and the premise for it, and I completely forgot about it until the bling blang bling.
Yeah, the season 2 opening.
And then I was like, "What is this? What is this from?"
Isn't that just that other anime where the kid doesn't do magic, but he just works on himself so hard he can beat everybody?
Yeah, it's that one.
Yeah, it's that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're watching.
It's somewhat.
No. What is that other one called? Black
One
Butler?
Punch Man?
No.
Harry Potter?
Was it Soul Eater? No, never mind.
No. Maybe you're thinking of the guy from Naruto. He doesn't have jutsu. He's just really strong.
We are in some weeds.
It's actually pretty popular. I'm just having a hard time pulling the name out. Sorry.
Okay.
Spoiler warning dropping.
Okay.
Hey guys, from now on there's going to be spoilers for Frieren, probably about part 1, but it'd be weird if you didn't want spoilers of part 1, but then we're listening to spoilers of part 2. Like, don't tell me how it begins, but do tell me how it ends. Anyway, spoilers for episode 15 through 28 of Frieren, and yeah, here we go. In a world. Again, okay,
Black Clover.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
But he literally has magic items. Like, he has magic swords.
Right, he can't use magic.
Right, he has anti-magic, which might as well be magic. It doesn't matter. No, it's not that.
He does have anti-magic, doesn't he?
That's a shonen battle anime. This is more of a comedy, just so you know.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a parody anime. You're gonna love it,
think
Jason.
more One Punch Man.
The
way One Punch Man's making fun of superheroes, this is making fun of magic worlds.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
All right, spoilers. Generic fantasy setting, and we have a bunch of characters to go over from where we were. So I'm assuming you're all caught up. But let's talk about the star of the show, Frieren the Mage. What do you guys think about her in this half?
She didn't have too much of a character growth in this half, I don't feel. I do think she had a few lessons to learn, but I think she's still dealing with... She's still having a hard time relating, but she's doing better. But she's having a hard time relating to a sense of time when it comes to other people. And her considerations for how long something takes. What I think I really appreciated about this is that her focus is less on... It's becoming less on the goal and less on herself and more about the people around her. And she's really taking the lesson of cherish the people around you and the moments that you have with them more seriously. And I think one of the more touching moments is when she gets a particular, I'll just set this point, say artifact fixed. That was pretty heartwarming. So I enjoyed her. She's stoic as ever, but she is more interested in the people around her than she is in her own on herself.
That's fair. I don't know. She's the same as she was before. Um, she's mild and kind of aloof, and which makes sense. I mean, being almost immortal, it's hard for her to connect to people, and I don't see why that's a problem. It makes sense.
Not a problem. Jerry, there's a line in here that was related
I know,
to you. So hey, she doesn't understand emotions well, but she cares just as much and even more so because of it.
Trust her words.
That is
That's
my
all.
close friend Jeremy, my cousin Jeremy.
Yes.
I think everyone knows we're cousins, right?
Yeah.
To a T, absolutely.
Yeah.
First guy to show up has no idea why you're crying.
Yes. and my goal is just to make you stop. I don't just stop.
I will fix everything. Just stop the water. Can't waste water. Haven't you seen Dune?
Right, exactly.
Right.
Where's your suit? Where's your suit?
Look at this rock I cut. Doesn't that make you happy?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Have you seen my gems? So I don't know. She was fine. She's what I expected from Frieren after seeing the first half.
I think that's fair. I don't think there's a ton of change here. What I feel like they did with especially with the major story arc we go through in the second half, is this is Fern's story through the lens of Frieren, and I think that's what we're gonna do. What I'm hoping we do going forward, like we're gonna get a Stark story, but we stay with Frieren through Stark's story, right? And so on and so forth, and what other characters plenty now that are in the cast that we can bring back and rotate in and out. But this is Fern, and especially about Frieren and Fern's relationship, and they use the rules of magic and all that stuff to kind of explore it, but that's all thematic and symbolic of their actual relationship. It's why the ED focuses on the two of them and them coming together. That's what it's really about, Fern. But Frieren does a great job of carrying the story. Also, there is a antagonist, I'll say. Like Jeremy said, there's no villain, but there's an antagonist here that works as a great counterpoint to Frieren, who's very similar, but even more bitter and also more childish in their own way, which is what I love about Frieren, right? Is that she's super mature and wise, but also a total child in many ways. And they use another character to kind of reflect that and just kind of get to feel her out a little bit better. All right. Speaking of who I feel is the main character of this arc, Fern. What do you guys think about Fern?
She also didn't get a ton of character growth in this. I feel like she's... No?
Troy disagrees with you.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, I just said...
I agree with you, Jason. I don't know if that's what you want to hear, though.
I think that's one of the things I really like about the show is the slow burn, right? So we don't see huge... They're not huge changes from first half to second half. It's not like she's reserved and a little mousy, and then in this one she's an extrovert. Like, that didn't happen. But her confidence is growing through small steps here and there. And I think that's really neat to see how, even though she's seeing these improvements in herself, it's not just this instant character change. It's she's starting to adapt to her confidence level. And I think that was really neat to see.
I still find her to be kind of an annoying character. She's quick to anger. She is quick to hold grudges. Yeah, she's quick to forgive those grudges if she, sees some kind of action that should get rid of it. But I mean, in her ways, and maybe this could be justified just by the way that she was raised by Heiter and Frieren, kind of a weird way to raise her. It's just unusual. It's not a standard family unit where she's going to learn the values, from mom and dad the way that she normally would. In her way, she's still very childish, and her behavior, is just like Frieren. It's just not befitting her age. and and it's just kind of sad because I think it had a negative impact on my perception of Stark as well, because it seemed like Stark was mainly there as sort of gags and for her to be mad at because that's funny. And it just made me dislike her a little bit more because I was like, come on, don't you have, I would like to see more from you. I would like to see more interesting things from Fern. But she's so quiet and she's so reserved that she doesn't have a chance to express much beyond smoldering. And not the cute smoldering, not the moldering smoldering, but the, Mulder smolders. Come on, it's X-Files. He does it. That's what Tanya says.
My wife is a huge David Duchovny fan. Seen every X-Files. Has had his poster on her wall as a teenager. I've never heard the Mulder smolder.
Oh, she just never says it out loud. Then
I'll ask
all
her.
women know about the Mulder smolder.
All women. I'm sure there is a smolder. I just haven't heard it named.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I would love to see more from her than just that. And she likes sweets. Woo. Character traits. Interesting.
So she has these character traits, and they are interesting.
Her most interesting power trait is her power level. And her ability to be a super mage of this era.
Huh. I mean, no, that's not her most interesting thing, but that is an important part about her. But also how that fits into the theme of the relationship between Frieren and Fern, what that means for the future of mankind, what that means for their relationship. Fern's great. Hey, live with a 18-year-old girl. She will get mad at you 3 times a week. I promise. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how clean your joke was. She will get upset. She will not talk to you for a day. You will buy her sweets, and then she'll start talking to you again. My daughter graduates next week from high school. FYI, not connected.
Man, that sounds like too much work.
So, yeah, I like Fern because when she gets mad, she does it in a really cute way. I think she's great. I love the quietness. I love the possessiveness of Frieren that she shows. That like they have this like always mad at each other, but they don't want to share each other. This is my big sister, my mom. I'm not letting you hang out with her. I want to hang out with her. But again, this whole theme is about their relationship, about what it means to have a child and what legacy is. And I think Fern did a great job of carrying that theme, which I'll talk about as we get into it. Stark.
I wish Stark would have had more of an impact here, but I mean, I understand once we get into the mage tournament, he's not a mage. So what are you going to do with him? I did love the little cameos he has here and there because they are great comedic relief. But I think my biggest thing that I appreciate about him is that he went from nervous, underconfident kid that everyone loves to more confident and excited to be on this adventure, which everyone loves. And so like his core personality hasn't changed, which I really liked because he's just so he's turning out to be a reflection of Himmel. Like he's always going to out of his way to help people. He sees the value in connection with people, and he strives to be a good person when no one's looking. So yeah, I like Stark a lot.
Yeah, there was a particular sequence that kept repeating that I really liked, and that was this old guy that would come up whenever he's just sitting in his sort of Stark is sitting in some kind of Zen position where he's just kind of meditating, and you have this old guy, and every day he's telling him something else about warriors or about martial arts or something, and then he ends it with like, "This is there's nothing left for me to teach you. You've learned everything there is." And then they even follow the joke up later with he's out in the field fighting with some other people, one of his few cameos, and the guy's like, "Oh, you've really mastered martial arts," or something like that. And I guess I may not have expressed it well, but like he doesn't know who this old guy is. He's not listening to this old guy, so it's pretty well done. It's a good joke. Beyond that, they just kind of had to wedge Stark in because this story was not about him in any way.
Right.
And you just had to be reminded that he exists.
I do agree. Mostly that's true. Both of what you said. I do agree with Jason about the building that reflection of Himmel, especially because remembering Stark's past is from a warrior village where we do great deeds and we've battled super. So he's not one of those ones who heard the stories of like the Himmel helping pick up groceries or carry stuff for helping old little ladies across the street. He does that stuff naturally, even though it's not part of his upbringing. The only thing, because I kept saying like, oh, he's like Himmel. Is Hero a class, or was Himmel also a warrior? Did they have two warriors in their party in the original party?
He was a hero. That was his.
So Hero is a class.
Understood. Yeah, that was his class. And if you go back to some of the old Final Fantasies, I believe Hero was one of the classes. Maybe I'm wrong.
Everyone refers to him as Himmel the hero who slayed the Demon King, right. Not Himmel the slayed.
Right. And like in the
hero.
the sword had to be pulled by a hero, not a warrior. So.
Well, that could explain if he was a warrior why he couldn't pull it, but I really thought he was a hero class.
And it would explain why Stark didn't even try, because he's a warrior, not a hero.
Right. I had assumed that too, Jeremy. It's just odd that he's so heroic. I'm wondering if they're going to play with that in the future because of the class, or if classes even matter. They haven't really gone into how they define their classes. That's true. What if a warrior just started casting spells? Screw you.
Well, according to some of the dialogue, magic's for everybody.
Yeah,
it used to only be for the powerful, but
and you can cast healing spells as long as you carry your Bible around.
That's right. Gotta have the scriptures.
Yep. I just looked him up on the wiki, and it says his class is hero. So yeah.
Okay.
Himmel's a hero.
Yeah, that's my thoughts on Stark. We have one more guy. He's not in it very much, so we probably don't have a lot of thoughts, but Sign.
What was even the point?
The priest. Is that an honest question? Because I have an honest answer for you. Do you want this? You want a 10-minute monologue about what the point of Sign was?
It was a joke question, but feel free.
I'll like it.
I liked that they decided that, like, because I can see in most anime, especially if we're gonna follow normal tropes, he would have like put his thing on hold to like stay in the story and go. No, that's not what was important to him. He was out there to find his friend. This was more of a convenience at the time, but also like she drug him along. He didn't want to go, and then he finally decided, oh, you know what? I do like doing this. And then once it came to a point where it was like, well, I need to go this way, you guys need to go this way, I guess this is where we part ways. I thought it was a brave decision, because like most stories wouldn't have done that. And it did allow us to focus more on the tournament. And I'm actually looking forward to see if those two show up later down the road.
There were a couple things I really liked. One of them was the old statues that were of like the old elf warrior and the priest that's with him, and how it looks like his buddy, his gorilla guy that he's always trying to find, and him. And there was one thing that was said that was really interesting, and that was they were cleaning one of these statues, and they knew the name of the elf warrior, but they didn't know the name of the priest. And he just said, "Oh, I see." And to me, that came across as, oh, I'm nameless because I didn't go. So I like that. I caught that, and it was, I don't know, it was very deep. It was super deep. I caught this deep theme there.
Layered.
Anyways, so there was that moment. I agree with Jason. I really like the fact that they let him go, mainly because it's rare. You don't see that where party members come and they go, and I think that makes a more interesting story. You see that somewhat in like Record of Lodoss War. That's pretty cool. But I am wondering when he's going to come back. The other reason I was kind of glad to see him go is that he was the weakest of the three as far as interesting stories go, and what he was able to contribute to the party of interest. Not tactically as a priest, he was very useful for that, but just as a character that I was interested in, the bar's pretty low, and he was still having trouble.
Yeah, well, last time I had listed him as like my least favorite character, and he wasn't super winning me over. I liked him, I think, a little bit better, but once I realized kind of what his purpose was in the story, which was to have joined, been a part of the group, and then split off and go off on his own, I was like, oh, okay, that actually worked really well for me. And in retrospect, his stuff now felt a lot better, because if he was coming in as a full main character at this point, I'm with you, Jeremy. I'm like, he's just not really clicking. He's not. I don't really see the whole group of him. But the overall theme of Frieren being like in life's journey, people will join and leave you, and that's just part of the journey. Like Jason said, having the courage to kind of break story convention and stick to that theme, and have character just walk away and say, okay, I'm done on the adventure. Bye. I thought was really cool, and just enforce the idea that friends come and friends go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's it for characters from part 1, so we can get into some story here before we have a lot of characters to talk about. So much just some fast stuff before we get to the major arc. Their first adventure is they find a town. It's cursed. Everyone's asleep, and they have to go fight this evil plant monster. And everyone's fallen asleep on the way, except for the priest, who can, because curses are different than magic. They're basically monster magic that no one understands, and so only the priest, this sign, can defeat it. Eventually, it's only him and Frieren, and she falls asleep, but she says, "Hey, wake me up at the time, and I'll be able to do."
Before you go.
Yeah, she said that, and didn't get copyright strike. All right.
It wasn't long enough.
And when he fights the giant plant monster, it has reflect cast. And he's like, oh, I got to wake her up, but she's not going to know it has reflect. And if she casts a giant spell, she'll just kill us. So what do I do? And he remembers that Hyder had told him to trust in Frieren. So he wakes her up, and she instantly realizes it has reflect and casts one spell right down its gullet and kills it in a single blow, showing that you can trust Frieren. She does what she's doing. And Stark and Fern wake up next to each other, and he's like, what did I do?
Am I in trouble?
Uh-huh.
There was a great scene at the beginning of this, though, when Frieren lays in Fern's lap, and then she complains she can't see the sky.
Yes, that cracked me up.
And then the next half of this is a lord hires Stark for a job. This lord's son had recently died in a battle, and he doesn't want to lower the morale of his troops any further, so he needs Stark to pretend to be him up until a dance. And as Jeremy called it in our comments, he My Fair Ladies him.
Yes.
But also Fern has to get etiquette training. They have a nice dance, but the main point is it's a big reflection of Stark on his own father and his relationship, and also his relationship with Eisen, the dwarf warrior who raised him. Especially because the father says, like, me and my son parted angrily. We were yelling at each other, and he went off to battle, and then he died, and I can never fix that. And Stark, we know, had left in anger from Eisen, and but the Lord invites Stark. He's like, hey, you could stay, and Stark's like, I can't be your son. And the Lord's like, yeah, I can't be your dad, but I have a younger son who I don't treat as, and you're thinking like, oh, he's going to treat him just like Stark's dad did. And he's like, no, he actually treats him good, and he goes out and makes Stark feel good. It was just this is a little mini reflection for Stark, little character building, and I thought it was good, and the dance was nice.
Yeah, it was also just really important because Stark is going into the background, and so he's like, "Give me a little, give me something."
Yeah.
But this was all in episode 1, like the tree thing, him leaving, the that other guy, the priest leaving, Sign leaving.
No, Sign hasn't left.
Didn't he leave at this point?
No, sir.
He didn't stick around for My Fair Lady, did he?
Yes, he did.
No.
Yes.
What a
I would have
okay,
mentioned
this episode took way too long.
Okay. They go to another village where a friend of Frieren lives, a old dwarf named Vol, who was already old the last time she had come to this village, and now he's super old.
He's got Yoda's training regiment. I did like that.
They force Stark to train with him while they help the village with its harvest. The big thing is the village is like, we don't know why he just sits at the gate and protects us. It's cool, but no one knows what he's doing. And then we see a flashback to the first party 80 years ago, and the dwarf had told them, this was my wife. I had a human wife, and this was her village. And so when she died, I vowed to protect it. And then Frieren is talking to him, and she's like, all these things have been so great. And he's like, yeah, and I really hope you defeat the Demon Lord. And she's like, but I did. And he's like, I can't remember my wife's face anymore. And it was sad. It was sad stuff. And then next day, he's like, hey, I had a dream of my wife's face. And so they leave. But it also reminds Frieren of her own immortality, because she's like, I'm in a light company, but you're not. Even to you, dwarves are short-lived.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this kind of exemplifies one of the other things that kind of rubs me the wrong way with with Frieren's storytelling is it's all tragedy. It's all, hey, I've lost somebody too. Mourn with me, make me feel better, and I understand that, but for that to be the central repeating story beat so frequently is just too much for me. I'm like, ugh.
But that's the dark and light side of the coin that they're trying to tell here. That on one side, you've got this being that's going to outlive all of these people, and like, what's the point of getting to know them when it's just going to be tragedy after tragedy? But then at the other side, it's like, it's worth it. It's worth to get to know these people and also to really understand why those relationships are valuable.
And appreciate them, yeah.
And we see that regret through Himmel and her trying to rectify that with the people in her life now.
Yeah, but I mean, these side characters that they encounter are all mourning the loss of somebody. Like, there's another guy later who the whole reason he's trying to take the test to become a first-class mage is to go visit his wife's grave. So, like, it's the same thing repeating again and again, that like these people are suffering from the loss of other people that they cared about. And I get it. That is palpable. That is real. But it's a strong, heavy theme. And when you combine that with sort of meandering character development storytelling where there are no stakes, to me that just
what do you mean there's no stakes?
There's no stakes. There aren't. It just comes across as a very heavy-handed way to focus on loss and use that because you're trying to use it to try and say, oh, she's going to enjoy what she has now because she's going to lose it. Let me repeat it. All these people, look at them. They're all losing it. You're going to lose it too. So you better enjoy it while you have it. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like the feel of that message. It doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel like, wow, why am I watching this? I don't want to think about loss. I don't want to think about, I want to think about, protecting something or fixing something or, some other.
But you do those things to prevent the loss.
Well, yeah, sure, but that doesn't mean you have to like dwell on it. And that's what the anime does seem to be doing, because it has to do that in order to present its thesis. It has to dwell on the loss in order to say it's all worth it, because you got to show what the cost is to decide whether the cost is worth it, right? Because she will inevitably lose these people. She's going to live
Absolutely.
thousands of years. There's no way around it.
Right.
So she's basically having to be convinced by seeing all the people around her. They're like, oh yeah, even humans lose other humans too. They suffer this too. This is just normal. You just go on with your life and you remember them and you appreciate them. But I don't know.
You were selling me so hard on the anime.
I know, but
like you're winning me over on it, and I already love it.
See, and I think that's the thing where it has to do with taste, and some people are going to love that, but that is just, it's too heavy-handed for me. I don't like it. But I've made that clear. I'm going to complain all the time.
Yeah, not to get too personal, but as someone who's had loss,
Right.
and it's not something like you're not supposed to talk about it. In normal, I can't just bring it up on a day-to-day basis, and it's fine. It feels nice to get to dwell on it once in a while. But you're right. I can see how it's a big bite to chew for 24 episodes. But I find a lot of beauty in it. And again, it's not that, hey, just so you know, you're all going to lose. It's, hey, you get so much out of it. Yeah, there's a loss at the end, but you get so much from it. That's what it's about. It's about the joy of the time you walk the path together. It's the friends we made along the way. And
I know,
that's so
yes,
cliche,
that's this anime.
but it's an important thing to remember on the journey of life.
I really enjoyed my breakfast, and I really enjoyed my lunch, and
I
if
hope
we're
they weren't
talking
the
about
friends along the way.
I enjoyed my friends along the way. If we're talking about an elf's lifespan, like you have to bring things into that perspective. I really enjoyed the pets I had when I was a kid, but they're gone. They're all dead. But I loved them when I was a kid. So like I get it,
So,
but in the perspective
but does that mean
of an
that
elf, it's like
if you have any pets now, does that mean you don't love them because they're going to die someday? So,
no, it to me it comes as common sense that you just do. And so to base an entire story around convincing you to do something that would be common sense, to be like, well, I'm going to enjoy this moment because that's just natural. It's a natural thing to do, is where I also have a disconnect. Now, I have said already that like because she's an elf, I'm wondering about like if there's time dilation or if she has memory issues or what's going on. But in this, it even like there's a moment where she says it's been quite a while now. It's been a year since Stark has been traveling with them. She says, I remember you called me an old hag.
Yeah.
Now you could say that's like human terms of memory, or if you look at it from her perspective, it's like he did that 5 minutes ago, right? Along her time span. But we don't know if she experiences time at the same exact, it's not about experiencing time. It's about whether she perceives her memory in the same way that we do. That's all that matters.
I think the series actually addresses that in this half. I think that's the point of Siri, which I want to talk about when we get to her. But I think that's why she's such an important role, and her contrast to Frieren. Like I was talking about the antagonist and why she's important to Frieren, because she's an even older elf, and we come to a scene about what about those people in her past, and how she's very indifferent to them, and then we find out that there's more to it.
Yeah. Well, and the only reason I'm bringing that up is that I don't want it to sound like I'm just contradicting what I said earlier, which is that she shouldn't be worried about these things. That's not what I meant. If that's what I said, I don't remember. It's been 3 weeks. But I have a suspicion that I may have said something that implied that, even if I didn't say it outright. And it's not an issue of not caring. It's just an issue that along the time span, the humans, to me, I would think they would be the way we perceive pets, in a sense of like they're going to be here, you enjoy them while they're here, and then they're going to disappear, and your life is going to go on. You're going to remember them, and you're going to have more pets, and there's no way to get around it. And if you try to put a particular pet on a pedestal, You're only sabotaging yourself, I think, if you're like, oh, I'm never going to have a pet again because this one was so great or something. Right. So there's just a natural common sense reaction to short-lived creatures compared to your own lifespan and how you would think of them and treat them. And so it just makes sense to me that she would do the same thing. And I think they did a good job portraying that in the first half. That's how she was behaving.
I mean, there's always taxidermy.
That's right. She could bring Himmel everywhere with her.
I don't fully agree that that's the common sense reaction. I do think there's a difference between pets and like a person that you talk to and have a
well, we don't have an analog. I mean, if we
you're
had
right,
like a 3-year-old human, and that's like they go through the entire adulthood in that period of time. You know,
this is getting out of control.
Then I would argue that they would make more of an impact on you, but that short lifespan is still going to be an insurmountable issue. About the way you perceive them.
I think that's the beauty of the anime is exploring of that very concept and like just digging into it and feasting on it.
I don't know. See, I don't think it deserves 28 episodes. Like, to me, that is something that deserves like a thesis paper that's maybe 2 pages long.
Or you don't have to read.
Yeah.
What do you mean deserves? What?
It doesn't. It's not that complicated. I'm sorry. Maybe it's just my own view on it, but it's like, to me, that just, it is such common sense that I have a hard time spending this much time digging into it.
Anyway. The next village, they find out that Guerrilla Warrior, this is Sign's friend, likely passed through. So they meet Stubborn Old Woman. That is the character's name. And after a chore montage, she gives them information, and he went east, which is the opposite direction they need to go. However, a blizzard hits, and they're stuck in this town for a while, which is really just, hey, we get to spend another 3 months with Sign, and then Sign says goodbye. In this story plot, there is another fight between Stark and Fern because she had put cold hands on him, and then he put cold hands on her later to get her back, and she got grumpy, and they have to call in Sign to help this not quite a couple work through this difficult relationship problem.
Just date already.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing.
Yes. And Jeremy, I'm sure the word cringe.
Yes.
Yep. Totally on purpose and super realistic. Like,
yeah, I can't argue that.
They're immature. They're both have no idea what they're doing, and I completely believe, especially with how bratty Fern can be, and poor Stark is just a pushover all the time. Yeah.
I think he's specifically a pushover for her because of how much he likes her. I think he's probably not that much of a pushover with other people. I mean, look at the way he treated royalty, right?
Yeah, that's true. Okay. I was trying to think how he treats Frieren. But yeah, he pushes back against her, even calls her an old lady and gets in trouble. He's very nice to her. Yeah.
I did find it very realistic that it wasn't the fact that he had cold hands. It was that he grabbed her too hard. That felt so real.
Her.
He's so strong.
Well, no, but that kind of complaint was just like, oh, yeah. It's like, you know, your wife tickles you and then you go to tickle her. But, oh, it was too hard. You too manly. Like,
yes.
You're just saying that because you didn't want me to tickle you.
Don't just make up random stories that aren't real.
You're right. I'm not married. I live alone.
No, it was the too manly part.
Okay, she did not use the word.
And I'm like, ow.
No. She did not use the word manly. I was just trying to get across the point that I'm stronger than she is.
See, you're making stuff up again. Knock it out.
Nicely done.
Yeah, there we go. Sign says goodbye. He's going after Guerrilla Warrior after definitely thinking about it. And honestly, I didn't know which one he was going to pick.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Me too.
In the rest of this episode, Fern gets sick, and they have to go and find ingredients from Sign's notebook to help her cure her. It mostly focuses on the fact that Frieren holds her hand, and Fern at first gets embarrassed, like she's being treated like a little kid. And when Stark's like, Frieren, why do you hold her hand when she's sick? And she says, well, that's what Himmel did for me, which goes to a flashback of Himmel saying this is what anybody should have done for them when they're sick. But of course, we know that Himmel is also madly, deeply in love with Frieren. And then when Frieren comes back with the cure, she still holds Fern's hand. Because that is her daughter. Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. If you're not clear on what that part was trying to tell you, it's that this is her kid now. All right, we reach the city. The arc is ready to begin. The city of Albert? Whatever. It's where the magic test has to happen. We get a quick introduction of Ubel the Mage, where she's battling bandits, and Kraft, the monk elf from last half, jumps in and defeats the bandits so that she can't murder them, because he's like,
right?
I've been finding dead bandit bodies everywhere, and I can see in your eyes it's you.
Yeah.
And she's
I love that he said to the bandits, if you don't want to die, run. And you think he's talking about like, I'm going to kill you, but then you find out that that's not it at all. That was cool.
So she becomes one of the main characters of this magic test. Your guys' thoughts on Ubel?
I thought this was a left field character, which I really enjoyed having her just kind of thrown into the fairly well-oiled machine we've established so far throughout the first half. And then it just reminded me of the washing machine going, and then the guy throws the brick into it. Like, that's Ubel.
Yeah.
I like that she breaks a lot of the magic rule convention that not only that we've established, but they feel they've established within the magic order. I like that she kind of pretends to be reserved, but really she's just coldly calculating how best to murder you. And I like her ability to gain new spells is based off of, can I empathize with you? Which means on a normal basis, she has an inability to empathize with people. And so I like this, like, we've established all these rules. Oh, by the way, here's someone that doesn't fit in, and they're also going to mess with everything that you know about it. And that was a really neat twist.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It makes me wonder where they would have gone with this in the past, because we learned that humans really only legally were allowed to pursue magic recently, as in like the last 50 years or so. Wait, no, it was before that, because it was after Flam died.
Right.
So it's been a while. I don't know if it was actually specified.
It's got to be before the first party, though, because it's as of Flam's death.
Right, but the
no, because we have one
class
first class mage. The oldest one is the first one that she accepted. He's still alive, so it has to be within a human lifespan.
No. There's two different events we're talking about. One, we're talking about the government's allowing the pursuit of magic. That happened a long time ago. The establishment,
as of Flam's death,
right?
Basically.
So the establishment of the mage order, that was 50 years ago.
That was 50 years ago.
Which is why Frieren is not registered at this time.
Right. And also why Frieren complains about them always establishing new orders of magic. This is not the first time that people have tried to establish some sort of like committee for it.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm wondering is, if magic has been legal to pursue for a very long period of time, centuries, and then prior to that, if you, I guess, were particularly talented with it, you'd probably learn how to do it yourself and become a hedge wizard.
What do they call it? Wild? No.
Like a wild mage?
Well, they had a name for it. They're like, oh, it's one of those spells. Like, it's like...
Oh. Folk.
Yeah, folk magic.
Or folk magic, yeah.
It's effectively what a hedge wizard is like just a wizard that lives out in the wilderness. Yep. So So it makes me wonder where characters like Ubel were during that period of time, and if they did show up, because is magic changing, or is it has it always been like this, but people are changing? I don't know exactly what caused her to appear as an anomaly, because what she is she plays magic by ear, the same way
in
somebody
my
would play an
opinion,
instrument by ear.
in my opinion, which I don't have a lot of evidence for besides the anime, is
Mhm.
that magic is just a nebulous force that exists, and it depends on the user on how they use it as that tool.
Well, that seems like it would be extremely accessible and hard to outlaw.
But if you don't know about magic or that it even exists, then how would you then go pursuing it? Because it, like, even Frieren, in order to learn new spells, she's got to find these grimoires or have people teach them to her.
But somebody wrote them, and I think that in itself shows that there's enough evidence that magic exists to where if you wanted to learn it or you were intrigued, you could go find it, like go out into the wilderness and find a hedge wizard or something.
I think it's similar to like technology today, right? Like,
Yeah.
my phone has a microchip, or like I can get a phone and I could probably modify that phone if I had the right tools, but I don't know how to make a microchip. But
Mhm.
that's something that someone before me made, right?
I didn't they mention it was outlawed because they believed that magic was
It was a
just
demon
demon.
thing.
It's
Mhm.
it was a demon thing. But I
Mhm.
think I think like a hedge wizard could have learned something.
Mhm.
But like if you're in the city, they're gonna be like, no, that's demon stuff. We don't do demon stuff here.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so yeah, there probably were some humans that did magic,
Mhm.
but it seemed more like the elves were the first one who were like, no, this isn't gonna just be demon stuff. We're gonna do this stuff too.
Yeah. The reason I'm bringing it up is just because Ubel has this weird ability where she can essentially use magic by ear the way a musician can play by ear. If she hears it and she understands it well enough, then she can do it. And of course, that, like you said, Jason, is empathizing with them. And it's empathizing on a deep enough level to where she understands how they think. Like when I hear empathizing with someone, it to me, it comes across as like multiple layers, right? You could have that superficial empathy where you can empathize with a few shared emotions and things that you understand just by interacting with them. But to truly empathize with someone, which is I think what she has to do, you have to get to know them in and out so that you can anticipate everything about how they would react in situations and what they think, in order to understand what kind of spell they would create or how they would tailor it or how they would tweak it. And I think that's what she does, and that's interesting to me. I'm also curious as to whether she has to leave them alive to use it, because I wonder if that's why she left that guy alive. Because if she only had to empathize with him to gain the spell and then she could kill him, I don't know why she didn't kill him. Because it seems like her character would be to kill him. Um, so I wonder if that's a caveat with her ability, is if she wants to keep using it, she has to not kill them. But I could be wrong. That could just be me hoping there's more complexity than there actually is.
She was going to. Her party stopped her.
I thought she said I'm more like him than I want to admit, whereas his
Yeah.
was I only kill if I need to, and I really do. I'm not even a killer, but I do. I'm a non-killer who does kill, so I always hesitate. And she was
Mhm.
saying I'm like that too. Once a push comes to shove, I'm not actually a straight up killer.
But then I don't
I
know if that's
mean,
actually honesty. I
yeah.
kind of think she might have been doing
Yeah.
that to empathize with him.
Maybe.
Maybe. But uh, yeah, that's why it just didn't make sense to me why she wouldn't kill him. Other than that possibility.
I chalked it up to it's a complex character making complex decision making.
When we
Or not every character choice has to be binary, and you either kill everyone or you don't kill anyone, or get out of my
No, I
story.
agree with that. I agree with that, but that's why I'm looking for other justifications too. Like I think there should be some kind of tactical reason for this character, just based on how she was going to kill those bandits. She had no reason
Oh
to. She
yeah,
was luring
but
them
they're
to die.
bandits. They're bad guys. And maybe she's justifying that
What about
versus
the first? What about that maid she cut in half? I mean, I know she was like, "Oh, I guess I hit too hard." Come on.
that's true.
It was pretty
Right.
obvious. He was like, "If you kill me, you'll be disqualified.
She didn't
Don't
see
use
that.
any."
Yeah, she wasn't all that like, oh crap. She was like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't seem in her character to want to spare anybody that she doesn't have to spare. I completely think that if she got the opportunity, as soon as she could empathize with Land, she'd just kill him outright if there was no consequence to doing that. Granted, it's just a clone, so it doesn't matter. But if it was the real him,
You're
and
right.
that
I was sitting there like, oh, maybe there'll be a nice romance, but no,
she'll kill him.
she's waiting for the clone ability. That's like 100% why she's following him around.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep. So she's an interesting character. I liked what she added to the story too because of her craziness and her sanpaku eyes. That was great. But she just seems so powerful that I wonder, were these anomalies always just waiting in the wings, but the environment was not set for them to grow into fruition because of the way magic was treated? Or is this something new that's happening because they're in a new age of magic? I don't know. Because Fern is weird too.
I think this is kind of exemplifying the creativity of humans and the anomaly that humans can be versus other races.
Because they're so short-lived, so things become. Frieren mentions that things become instinctual to them, like a foundational part of their being. And when something is that close to you, you can build off of it far more easily.
Right.
Than somebody
Like Zoltron
doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
I'll say I like Ubel a lot more now. After talking with you, the idea that she's a musician who can play by ear, which is totally a real thing. There's people who never learn an instrument a day in their life, and then they can play. And that's just her for magic. That really works for me. So she's fun. I think she's complex. The fact you don't is she going to be a future villain? Is she going to be a future ally? You don't know where she's going. You don't know what she's going to be. Every scene she's in, you don't know if you can trust her or not. I found her interesting because I'll be honest, was finding her a little one note as just I'm the evil mage. So that when she didn't kill Werble and has a little more complexity, just makes her more interesting to me. All right, then we come back to our group, and they're setting up to take the test. Fern is the only one allowed because she's the only one that is a registered mage. But this old man, who will come up back in the story, he recognizes basically Frieren and the artifact that she wears representing her old status, and makes a special exception to get her into the test. And then they're given 2 months to prepare. So they do a bunch of research and training, and then the test begins. And they're all broken up into groups. And we find out Fern is in Ubel's group, and Frieren gets teamed up with these 2 young girls, Lawin and Kana. Your guys' thoughts on them?
They were a fun addition to the group, but they felt very even from the moment that they were in and also during the testing, they just felt like temporary characters. I didn't feel they were their relationship was nice to watch. But you could just tell that these are to make a point and they're going to be out of the story.
Throwaway. Yeah, throwaway characters. Mm-hmm.
I thought they did a little more with them. I first thought this is throwaway characters, and they kept it around for the whole rest of the arc.
My biggest complaint with them is that they were overboard. If you take the tone and everything else from this anime, when it comes to its flavor, these 2 characters fighting in every scene that they're in the background, if they happen to be there, during conversations, during serious events, anything, it's the same shtick with them. And I just thought it clashed, and it didn't fit what they had established. This anime has a very subtle and finely timed comedy. I'll give it that. This was not subtle. It was not finely timed. It was loud, and obnoxious. And so to me, it just felt out of place. I didn't have a problem with it. In another anime, I would have been like, yeah, that's great. They're funny. It just clashed in this one.
Jeremy's 100% right on this one. Every mage, the ones we're going to talk about, even the ones we're not going to talk about, to me felt like they were the main characters of their own stories, but still in the very same world. Whereas Lawen and Kane felt like they were from a different anime, like a teen high school magic anime, and they had fallen into this one. And I liked what they were trying to do with the characters. I even liked the relationship of we hate each other, but okay, we obviously we don't.
We're best friends.
I was into it, but yeah, I 100% agree. Their comedy was clashing with everything, even just how young and like it felt like they were out of Magic High School 5 minutes ago, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, there's like a 50-year-old man over there. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
I think my biggest problem is it felt like the only reason they were there was just to set up Kana at the third test, which I think in retrospect made a really great impact as far as storytelling wise, and I actually really liked that scene. But yeah, they literally felt like throwaway characters, and like they are probably the ones that I will remember the least out of all the like quote unquote main side characters.
I'll add that their fight with Richter in the first test, I think, is a major world building magic rules development about, the magic shields versus physical attacks, and imagination and what your specialty is, the way water plays into everything.
Whether you're a waterbender or earthbender.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the issues I do have with the magic system.
We'll get to the magic system because we're gonna have words. But
yeah,
I think that I felt like that was their purpose.
Words.
But yeah, they also kept them in the rest of the story, and I like I said, I agree with Jeremy that their comedy was clashing with the style. They just felt out of place the whole time. It's probably my biggest complaint about the entire series. All right, that is Frieren's pairing, and they have to go and capture these Stilla birds, which are magic sensing, supersonic speed flying birds, and they're in a. Quit shaking your head. There's no reason that's not cool. It's a magic world. You can do whatever you want.
It's so dumb.
It's cool.
Have you ever heard about these birds
cool.
that are practically immune to magic? No, I've never heard about them before. They're just outside the town.
When they capture the first one and they just like, boom,
Yeah,
it flies down. I was like, oh, that's cool.
The visuals are great. The logic is suspect.
No, they wouldn't know about them because the birds would always fly away from them.
Oh, bullhonky.
That's why they don't know.
They come from a magical academy. You think they didn't talk about the super tough birds that are sensitive to mana outside of the town, and the monsters that attack them, and they're like, there's monsters out here? Some magic academy.
I did think that as well when I was like, oh, their contestants just get murdered. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Oh, they weren't good enough to be first class mages anyways. That's a terrible way to go about it.
Yep.
Anyway, the catching of that first bird goes wrong, and so they follow Frieren's advice. They just observe for the rest of the day. That night, Kana gets attacked by one of the giant evil birds, and Frieren captures it using a bird capturing spell that she happens to have. Because, Frieren collects odd spells. It's not weird.
Which I might add, she gets from grimoires.
But this is another character flaw for Frieren, because she says things with a ton of intent, and that she kind of believes in people. But the problem is that these girls are a little airheadish, because she's like, hey, watch the skies. And so she's hoping, or like, she probably assumes that they're just going to infer, oh, skies might be dangerous. I better keep an eye on it. Both of them look at each other and go, I don't know what she's talking about. And then giant murder bird comes and almost eats her.
Yep.
Oh, watch the skies. So
mm-hmm.
So Fern's group is able to capture one, thanks to the spell
Stella,
of
not the murder bird.
Yeah.
thanks to Werble. Werble on Fern's team? No, Werble's on the other team. Land.
Yeah,
and
no,
Uba.
Fern caught it.
Actually,
Fern caught it.
Oh, okay.
Using
Because
the
she
bird
used the
catching
same bird catching spell.
Yep.
So they
We
have
don't
They
one.
see
came
it,
across
they
a
just say
roost or something. I'm not sure how she got that close, but that's what she used.
Frieren's group comes up with a plan. So Lawin does ice and Kana does water as their what they're best at.
bending.
Yeah, basically.
Lawin freezes the lake because the birds have to have water, and then so basically by freezing it, she filled it with magic, and the birds always avoid magic. And then they freeze a bunch of other small water sources and go to the only water source left they could find and wait for Scylla to arrive.
No. So they freeze the main big lake, but then Kana goes around and infuses the small ponds with mana.
Thank you, Jason. I didn't want to be that guy, but I'm glad you were.
because I said that she froze them, right?
She froze them. Yeah,
Yes.
We'll
take turns.
But I did like that when they came up with this plan. They're like, you realize all the other contestants are gonna hate us, right? She's like, yeah, about that.
It basically sets off because everyone else is like, well, if we don't have one now, it's time to go murder someone and take theirs.
Right?
Yep.
Speaking of which, Fern's party gets attacked by Werble's party. Werble is a magic user who is a military soldier guy, mercenary group that uses magic, and he's now trying to become the first class mage. Oh yeah, they're trying to become first class mages. I don't know if I mentioned that. They just said they're taking the test. First class mages. Important. You can't go north without it.
Right. But you could get a boat, or you could cross this other route.
Okay, so Jeremy is right. If they fail this test, Frieren's going anyway, right? Like, did anyone think she would stop?
No, she's even outlined plans.
The only counter to that, and the reason they're here is because that's a more dangerous option than the testing.
Correct.
And the reason being is they could be. You're talking about being on a confined space on a burnable object with demons attacking you all the way up the coast.
No, this is definitely the better plan. You're right.
Yeah.
It is.
No, I wanted to point that out because this is the second time he said, like, oh, why don't they just take a boat? Well, because that's not a great idea.
Well, I mean, the dungeon's a fantastic idea. It's super safe.
Oh, are you talking about the second test?
Yeah.
We're not there yet. Don't spoil stuff.
Yeah, but my point is there are dangers in both routes. And it's not that the second route has dangers. It's that there even is a second route. Like, if you want me to invest in this, don't tell me you have backup plans.
Wouldn't it be unbelievable if they didn't?
Yeah.
They don't need to tell me. They can worry about backup plans after they fail the initial plan.
So last episode, you complained about the whole flying limit because they didn't explain everything to you. But now, don't tell me stuff because I don't want to know.
Hey, this was a throwaway comment from Frieren. She had zero reason to say, oh, yeah, if we don't pass this, we'll just take a boat or whatever. There was zero reason to write that. I don't need to know that they've talked about that.
I completely disagree. I think you would complain about, like, there's clearly other things they could do, like take a boat. Why wouldn't they even mention it?
No, because this
go
is
to the airport and fly over.
This is a standard in storytelling in an anime where you present the path that you're going to go, and in order to build the stakes up for it, you don't present a ton of other routes, and you don't present any. Like, she gave two. She gave two. Yeah.
What's the second?
Like, remember Lord of the Rings when they're like, we could go over this mountain or the mines of Moria or through the Gap of Rohan, and Jeremy's like, quit telling me options, just go to the mines.
No, that was either or. Once you start a path, you can't go back. There's not enough time.
They literally did go back. They went over the Pass of Carapass, and then they had to go back to the mines of Moria.
It's okay, maybe. It's been a long time. I need to go look at that. But my point is, Frieren sucks. And if you're going to be doing garbage like this,
wow,
telling me that this has no stakes because they have another path, then I'm not invested. If you go down into this first, there aren't any. They could, if she even says, like, if I fail this, I'm gonna fail this. At the end of it,
Yeah.
Frieren's like, I'm gonna fail this. So, and I mean, granted, she might have
She
won.
knows Fern's. She never even cared if she took the test.
See,
She knew Fern would pass.
But there was no reason to. Like, it wasn't important.
They needed a first class mage to get north.
Now they can just walk through gates without having to like go around or tromp through the forest. It's a much easier path.
And where are they going again? What's the important world-changing event that they have to go north for?
She gotta see her boyfriend's ghost.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, this is not important. This is
important to me.
Yeah, okay.
Me too.
I am at the edge of my seat about like, oh my god, what is he gonna say when Himmel sees her?
Oh my god.
Is Hyder gonna be there? Will Eisen be there? Will he have died in the time it took to get there? And that's when Stark meets him. There is a ton at the end of this road.
Matter to you guys?
So much.
Wow.
So much.
Yeah. Nope.
All right. Your guys' thoughts on Werble?
Purple is cool.
He might be a little too cool. he's
Right.
got a lot going on.
Yeah.
He does have a lot going on. Because when at this moment we think, oh, he's just a military guy and he's like a stone cold killer. And then we come to find out, no, he's a conflicted killer. And then, oh, actually, he's a really nice guy. He only kills when he has to, and he likes slaughtering demons. Yeah, and I think his like combat proficiency is really neat. Yeah, I like this character.
I like that he has a wand because he's the only one I've seen that has a wand, and it really caught me off guard when he started using that. Otherwise, he has a very interesting power set. We saw it recently a lot in Undead Unluck. That power set was used a lot in the beginning, and then later there were similar power sets. So this is a very common thing to have, where you're like, I look at somebody and then they're stuck, they can't move. I don't know. For that reason, as a mage, a contender, he wasn't
so hard to complain. Never seen someone try so hard to complain.
I don't know. He was fine. I'll just say that he was fine. I don't have any real complaints. I'm just bored.
I don't. Okay, I'll be honest. The reason I put him even on the list is because he has this big scene at the end. Up until that point, I was like, I don't know if I care about you. And they kept going to his backstory. I had a town and I saved a girl I promised to protect. And I'm like, is that the girl that he's carrying? I love that his companions keep getting disabled and he keeps having to carry them. It's a funny joke. I'll say I almost wish they spent more time with him because I don't feel like they made him as interesting as the moment they gave him, which is my it's my favorite moment. And I'll say it when we get to the end of the plot, but Werble has my favorite moment. And I'm like, man, I wish you hadn't like just been in the background in the second test, like off on your own for most of it. It's kind of odd. But he does again. He seems like his own main character of his own anime, which I think is cool. It gives flavor to the world that all these people have very interesting stories going on their own different paths.
They should have just taken Lowen and Kana's time and given it to Werble.
Yes, I agree with that. Okay, the last mage I do want to talk about is Denkin. You can bring up any others you guys want, but Denkin I feel is the most important. Your guys' thoughts on Denkin, the old guy?
Yeah, I think I liked him a lot. He's wise, he's practical, and he knows when he's outclassed, which I think is what I really appreciate about him. He's like he's strong, but he's like I know that he's similar to Warble. I know which fights I shouldn't take.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also I like that, when it's game time, he's got his game face on. But when he's not in game time, he's young grandpa. I like that about him.
A young grandpa. he's grandpa.
I know, but he doesn't have white hair. He's still got color in his beard.
I really like this character. I like the way they wrote him. I like that he was presented as a bloodthirsty mage that, initially you'd have your preconceived notions about, similar to Werble. similar to Ubel, although Ubel actually is.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I really like the fact that he was constantly trying to corral the other mages and be like, come on, guys, we don't, especially in the second test, like, there's no reason for us to not team up and coordinate and figure out how to solve this. And everybody's like, nah, screw you, old man. We're just going to go and see how things go. Yeah, I really liked this character. He was cool.
Yeah, I thought when we were first introduced to him, I thought, oh, old guy who's actually like the most evil of the whole group. And they didn't go that route with them. I also liked his flavor. My favorite moment is when, the test is almost over and they're like, oh, those guys have birds, but they're out of magic and we're out of magic. There's nothing we can do. He's like, we can beat the crap out of them.
Yeah,
right.
just
time to fist.
Which is it's a hint to his whole thing in the third test is that, hell, I don't have ambition anymore. Yeah, I do. I've matured, but I still have the fire inside. And it was cool that they explored that with him. I had thought he was a dwarf. And I thought it would be so cool that we had a dwarf mage, and then we didn't. And that was kind of a bummer. I ended up looking up on the wiki to find out if he was a dwarf. But I saw on there, it said the reason he always buys everyone treats and does the grandpa act is because his wife died before they had children. He always wanted to have kids and become a grandpa. And yeah, these characters are complex and well written, so whatever.
Well, this one.
Oh, it's lost. Why are we talking about lost? It's stupid.
Well, that part of it was just tropey. I mean, it's present too much in the rest of the anime.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But I was also wondering, like, some of the other characters, even Richter points out, he's like, what is your relationship with this old man? And I even want to know, like, is she somebody that came with him from the Imperial Mage Court, or did they just team up at the beginning and she's like,
calls
I
him
sweets.
Gramps.
Yeah, just because he's treating her like a granddaughter, because that's what he does to young people.
Yeah.
So even, not, he hasn't had
even Stark is like, why is this guy like buying us stuff? Yeah. And Fern's just like, go with it. He does this.
Yep.
I almost wanted to talk about Richter. I really did like the character of Richter. I just I had to pick and choose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Battling happens. Lots of battling. Ubel beats Werble.
Lots of battling in the pacifist test.
No, this isn't the pacifist one. That's the next one.
Oh, okay. We're still on the birds. Okay.
Yep.
The pacifist is always complaining about this test because they're fighting each other.
Yeah.
Fern fights Werble's companion, and the lady's mocking her like, "You're just doing basic spells. Do you not understand what magic is? Like, you can do anything you want, anything you can imagine."
Calling her a basic bee.
Yeah, you're just doing shield attack. And then Fern's like, what about like 100 attacks at once? And it takes her out. But what's great is Fern actually saves Ubel from Werble by sneaking up on him. And then she's like, yeah, I killed your friend. And he's like, oh, well, part of the thing is you have to finish with your entire team. So he just gives up and leaves and then finds her still alive. Fern is trickier than she's got more layers than just a pouty little girl. Come on, this is a little cunning.
This is cunning. I agree. It's
cunning. I found it almost out of character to be like, I murdered her.
That is more of where I'm at with it. It's not that she has layers so much as, well, this came out of left field.
I think what I liked about this scene is we've got this seasoned demon hunter mercenary that could not detect her when she suppressed her magic all the way. I thought, and she was able to sneak up on him. Like that was impressive.
Did you guys notice the eye twitch?
He had an eye twitch?
Yeah, I had to watch the scene twice. I'm like, did I just see that? It's a tiny little detail. As soon as she says, I killed her, his eye twitches.
I did notice that.
Just a
I missed that.
Because she matters to him a lot.
Mm-hmm. And he, like you said, he's that, I'm a stone-faced killer. And then they have that slight animation. I'm like, oh, the details Frieren puts in.
Okay. Yeah, it also, like in the OP, when you get the cameos of all the characters, she's riding on his back and she like nuzzles him. So you know that there's a relationship there.
So is she the girl he promised
Because there's a flashback where she says he came to my village and saved me, and she's a little girl and he's already an adult.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I wondered the same thing. I was going through the possibilities of who it might be, and I couldn't find anybody in this cast that fit the timeline.
All right, so Frieren gets her bird, but it gets taken by Denkin's group because they have someone who can flash step, basically.
It's in every anime.
Sure, it wasn't like it was a major deal. So Frieren has to fight Denkin, and then Laween and Kana have to fight his partner. I just said his name, and now I forgot. Richter. Yeah. And Richter's a jerk. He's like, I'm just going to straight up murder you guys because that'll be the easiest way to win. And I'm going to... Okay, so he has earth magic. They have water and ice, but there's no water because they already froze most of it, and there's no rain coming in through the barrier.
Dome. They're under the dome.
Cecil or Sizer? What's her name?
Sizzler?
Long-haired pacifier.
Sensa.
Little Sizzlers. No,
Sensa.
Sensa. She mentions to the other mage that someone's analyzing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Our master made the best barrier of all time. Frieren rocks Denkin's world, and then tricks the other mage to bring the bird back to her. Captures both of them, and they're like, but it doesn't matter because Richter's gonna kill the girls. And she's like, nah, they're going to win. And she casts this 1,000,000 triangles at once spell, and it shatters the barrier, which brings the rain down, and then Kana does tsunami attack, and it's super effective against Richter, who does try to put up a shield. I love the whole, like, shields can't block physical stuff. That's, like, their weakness, and he explains it. And then he just still tries, I'm going to try. Oh, no.
Yep.
And he seems so bothered by it too. Not like angry or like disappointed, just like, oh, I can't believe this is happening.
Yep.
But yeah, so like we said, Denkin's team does still succeed by just physically mugging another team.
Well, and they weren't going to win anyways because they had lost one of their members.
That's right, but they weren't going to. They were like, but they won't give up the bird anyway.
Right.
And so the test comes to the end, and all the main characters pass, and they have 3
and
days.
A few more. I was like, oh, there's a few other people that pass, like 2 other teams. Those guys are
2 other red shirts.
not. Yeah, they're not going to survive the next one.
I'll be honest though, there's a character who passes the 3rd test, and I'm like, where did she come from?
Who are you?
Did we forget to
paladin?
mention this character? The hypnotism. No, not the hit. She's not just the hypnotism, but the one is like.
She looks like a paladin. She behaves like a paladin. Like she's got reflect magic. She's got hypnotism and healing, and and she's also like she looks like a knight more so than most of the others.
Sorry, they're not carrying a giant shield and a. I don't think.
And a mace.
Yeah,
she's got paladin magic. There we go.
Okay. Fern and Frieren visit Stark, and he gets in trouble for sleeping in because Fern's a stickler. Richter, you see he has a repair shop, and then Denkin gets him, and this is the restaurant scene. So a bunch of these main characters all end up at the same restaurant. Frieren has taken her crew there to try to cheer Fern up with delicious food, and we get a flashback of when the first party they came here and they ate at this restaurant, and it was the best food they'd ever had. And the cook says, I appreciate what you guys have done so much that I promise the food here will always be this good, same flavors. You come here in 100 years, it'll be the same. And Himmel's like, okay, I'm going to hold you to that. I also love that Himmel wanted him to keep that promise, not for himself, obviously, but because he was thinking of Frieren. And the anime doesn't go out of its way to tell you that. We just know that from subtleties.
Actual visual storytelling.
Yep. Just
layers. Almost like it's a deep anime.
Speaking of layers, then Frieren takes a bite, and she's like, he lied. The taste isn't the same. However, I've completed my quest of finding better food than that meal that night. Hey,
That's
guys.
life, Frieren.
This is the theme of this arc.
humans get better at stuff.
Yeah, basically.
Your protege, your legacy is not about preserving your legacy. It's about carrying it on and making it their own. That is what Fern is to Frieren.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Really? Because I think Frieren would outlive Fern
Frieren is going to outlive Fern, but Fern is going to become a better mage than her.
for a little while.
Even though it's kind of hinted that Fern will kill Frieren.
Yeah, I actually liked what they did in the second test for that reason. It was
Actually-
I've never seen a student-teacher relationship that discussed that before. That was cool.
That's my biggest problem with this half is the second test, but we'll get to it.
Okay, we're coming up to it. This was my favorite moment up till the very, very ending. I just loved this little kind of tiny like foreshadowing of, hey, here's the theme in a micro size. Now let's go do a whole arc about it. Anyway, the well, nope. Then Fern's grumpy again.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
I know. Stark gets enlisted into a job with Werble, and then they hang out with those two girls, and then it's time for the second test, and they find
Did
out
we ever
that
find out what that job is?
he's killing a
Yeah, he
monster.
slays some monster. It shows
It's
him
like
with
a
it.
half second.
They shows him
Yeah.
eating it.
Oh,
Yep.
that's right.
It's because Stark doesn't really matter. They just want to remind us he exists.
I thought it was a fun joke of and then Fern giving permission, like, yeah, steal our warrior. What do we care?
Yep.
Especially since he didn't get to have the snacks, and they all got to go have snacks with those other two girls. Sansa is the proctor for this test, and she's never passed anyone ever. And so everyone's all worried. Second test, you have to go to the bottom of a labyrinth. The King's Labyrinth? The Prince's Labyrinth? I don't remember. King's Labyrinth?
Yeah, King's
I think it was the Dead King's Labyrinth, maybe?
King's Tombs Labyrinth.
King's Tombs
This,
Labyrinth.
yeah.
There are no rules about working together. And like we said, Denkin's like, okay, everyone, let's team up. And everyone's like, you tried to murder us like 2 days ago. Bye.
I love that there is one guy in green who's like, hey, I won't be held back by all the other mages because we don't have to work together anymore. And he just takes off in there by himself. And every now and then we get a snapshot of like where he's at in the dungeon.
It's just going terribly.
It's not good. And then at the end, when everybody else is dealing with how they did in it, you just see a golem carrying him out. And people are like, who's that guy? That was really good.
Speaking of the golem, that's the other rule: is everyone has their own glass bottle with a golem inside. If you break it, a clay golem will show up and carry you out and protect you and get you to safety, but you lose the test. Jason, you have problems with this. Is it because of the
Yes.
doppelgangers? Do you want me to reveal
Yes.
the doppelgangers, or you go ahead? Go ahead.
Yeah. So a couple of things. One, we just got done with a team building exercise test. So now we're going into another potential team building exercise test. I don't think this is a good direction as far as if you're trying to find the best of the best, because that's what first class mage is supposed to be. It's the best of the best. And so if all that's required is you get to the bottom, what's to prevent someone from just standing at the entrance, waiting, a day and a half, and then just rushing down there at the last minute to say, oh, it's all free and clear, and then they just walk in. That didn't test their mage abilities at all. Also, it wasn't a race, so there was no reason for them not to work together.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, that tests the strength of their group. That doesn't test the strength of each individual mage. And then third, the doppelgangers, it feels very lazy storytelling. It's like, ugh, Frieren's so powerful. What do we do? Oh, we'll get a copy of her. It feels Marvel all over again. It's like, I just don't.
Marvel, as in most villains, are just, I'm the
Copies
bad guy
of
with
the-
powers, same powers.
Yeah. Literally Iron Man 1. Um, he built a bunch of scrap in a cave. But anyway, sorry.
Yep.
So those are my three big problems with this particular test. I didn't. I think it's there. I think there could have been a better way to showcase Frieren's abilities and pushing her to her limits, because this didn't push Frieren to her limits. It pushed her clone to her limits to show her power that whatever this clone could do, she can do. I don't know. It felt a little cheap and empty.
You know, I can see your points. I didn't have any real problem with it, probably because I was just really wanting something interesting to happen. Yeah, it's just like fight, just do something. So I liked it for that reason, just because there was activity. But you do make valid points there.
I liked the traps. I liked the labyrinth. I liked the hidden rooms and the treasure, like going through a dungeon. And I like the idea of like a very powerful deity at the end, like guarding the last room. That was all great premises. I just think it would have been better if it was like either more traps, or maybe those traps developed into demons that come out that are very powerful. I just didn't like the doppelganger part.
I have let me play devil's advocate for just a moment. Do you think that it makes for Yeah, I just want to ask like a couple questions, and then the floor is yours. Do you think that it makes for more complex storytelling to just say that Sansa has an interesting character, and that this test is this way with these problems because of her pacifism trait, and that builds the world more because it's her decision, and we learn about her character, and then we learn about the other first class mages don't get along, and so it would be a good thing if they learn team building exercises, and maybe that's something that she wanted personally, because she wasn't seeing that.
I mean, those are all valid points. However, we didn't do that with the first test. I don't know anything new about the first test proctor.
Yeah, that's true. He wasn't as important as Sansa because he wasn't given the attention. I just mean it didn't care about him as much. Go for it, Troy.
I'm dying, guys.
Go.
The only one I think I agree with is the what stops someone from just waiting on the outside and running at the very end. Especially if it's a team like you could just have, hey, you 6 leave a rope. No one would.
Yeah.
Which is probably the biggest flaw. But technically, yeah, you could cheat this system pretty easy.
The only thing would be labyrinth and traps.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like if someone left a trail, who would be like, yeah, I'll do all the work and you just stay out here for this test. But Siri herself points out this test sucks.
Yeah,
she's upset with. I think Jeremy hit it on the head with this is a pacifist. I'm testing your guys's temperaments and ability to work together, and what I think first class needs to be. And Siri comes in and is like, that was dumb. I now need to take over the test because this test sucks so bad. But the biggest one is the doppelganger. It's super important that it's Frieren. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It has to be Frieren at the end, and it has to be Fern. The minute details of how that fight ends are super important to the theme about, again, it's about the legacy, not preserving your legacy. It's not about Fern becoming as powerful as Frieren. It's about Fern taking what Frieren is teaching her and going beyond. And
for a little while,
you use Frieren as Frieren's doppelganger as a measuring stick. And I can go over it now, or we can wait till we're in the fight.
I liked the minutia of the fight, but I mean, we're talking about, I don't know. I enjoy unknown enemies, better than, oh, I know everything about this enemy because it's a copy of me, so we can strategize and create the perfect plan to win.
But that's
Which doesn't
literally
go well for
what Sansa
everybody.
wanted.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, okay. So this is, and I think that makes it better for me, is what you said, because that's true. The anime calls itself out for this bad test, and so I did appreciate that part.
Well, that's why I've praised it that way, and I was curious about that. Is something that is unpalatable, does it suddenly become more palatable because the anime justifies it? Are you okay with it now? Do you like it more? Are you like, yeah, that was a good story beat now that I'm thinking about Sense?
I don't like the test still, but what I do like is that the anime said, Siri said, hey, this is dumb. What are you doing? I need to take over because you're bad at this. The problem is that I don't know who Sensa is. Like, we get a little bit of her story, like a tiny bit, but like, who is she? Why do I care about her beyond that she's a proctor for the test?
She has hair that's really hard to take care of.
Super powerful hair, man. Just like the best hair of all time.
But it can still be cut.
Everyone agrees.
Any old pair of scissors.
By a genius.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do a little storytelling. Really, it's about all these different groups, because they broke into groups going down. Frieren and Fern go off on their own, but Sensa decides to follow them. I adore everything about Frieren exploring this dungeon. And the flashbacks to like Himmel being like, okay, we gotta go down to the next thing. He's like, no, guys, we missed some rooms. There could be treasure. We have to explore every room of every dungeon. I'm like, that's a video game player right there.
Yeah, that's, for me, this was like every RPG.
And also, anytime I've ever played a video game dungeon crawler with my wife, she plays for the treasure. So Frieren's whole like, I gotta get every piece of booty in this building, even though she's there for a test, shouldn't care. She's literally drawing the map. Oh, there could be more treasure. The whole the mimic joke, which has been made before, but the whole, there's a 1% chance it's treasure,
Yeah.
so I have to do it. I'm like,
as a Path of
my
Exile
wife.
player,
That's my wife every time.
Yeah. I identify with that so much, and I love the hold on, look at the map. There's a room behind this wall. That was probably my favorite part of this whole thing.
Yeah, that was cool.
I hope that mural is lore important. I don't know enough about the lore when I looked at it. Like, maybe it relates back to the Demon King, maybe it doesn't.
It looks like winged elves and humans were together to form the first empire. That's what cool. I got from the mural.
I didn't get anything. I was writing notes. Found a mural. The rest of the parties, kind of having their own adventures. One girl, in Jenkins' group, has to use the golem, which is basically just to show us how the golems work. But then the real threat.
Okay, this was just weird because I was wondering, they were like, Fern is the youngest to ever achieve a grade 3 certification, and then they've got this little lowly girl over here who's on the party as well as somebody else's party, and she looks like she's all of like 12 or 13, and she's got a staff that has a star on the tip because they all have like different staffs, so it looks like magical girl staff. And I was like, what, why is she still in team 2? And then she just gets annihilated basically in the beginning, and I was like, oh, okay. They could make her whatever she wants. It's like in Predator where they're like, oh, you're gonna die what, second or third, and you get to have any weapon you want. And he's like, okay, I want the helicopter gun. Give me the helicopter gun.
Do you want to get to the end of the podcast, or that's just? I mean, if we're gonna stop for every minutia on the way.
Well, I mean, this was a funny one for me.
A lot of
saying something positive.
Yeah.
Oh, that was positive. Okay.
Easy for Jeremy in this anime, absolutely.
Look, the threat of the dungeon is that after you've been in it a while, it creates doppelgangers of you with your exact level of mana, and there's a monster at the end who just makes copies of everything that comes in. This is a famous dungeon. The party that originally, luckily, one of Lawin, like my brother's cousin, third daughter was in the original party that found this dungeon, so I know all about it. Basically, Monster at the very end makes copies of everyone. Everyone's having, fighting doppelgangers, except for Denkin's party runs into Frieren, who's way too strong for them. So and it's the final room, so they just have to sit outside. Eventually, Frieren and Fern get there. Most of the others get there, and the big thing is like, how do we beat Frieren? And Frieren's like, it'd be 50-50 if I do it. We see Ubel fight herself, and she ends up losing, but also wins because of Land, the clone guy, was with her, and he kind of manipulates him to win. Trying to think of anything else that was super important that happens. We learned the doppelgangers can't be hypnotized. They don't have brains. The hypnotized lady. Oh, I did want to mention hypnotized lady. And she has 2 guards with her, and the voice of Vegeta, Piccolo, All Might, is the English voice of
Yes.
Let me check my notes. Bodyguard number 2 with mustache. What?
I know, that was so random. I was like, wait, that's All Might.
Yeah, I was like, oh, so this is like the most important character of the arc now? Oh, no, okay, he's done. All right. Sure. Sorry, when Christopher Sabat, when I hear his voice, I'm like, all right, main character material, and he was bodyguard number 2. So weird.
And he's gone.
Yep.
Okay. Fern's like, hey, I have a way to defeat Frieren, and she tests it out by blasting Frieren with Zoltak, who defends herself, and everyone's like, oh, I see. So whenever Frieren casts a spell, she lets her mana detection slip for just a moment, and everyone, they're like, why do you have that? She's like, it's super embarrassing. I don't like to talk about it. It's just a little flaw she has. So the plan is that Frieren will go in and battle herself, and that Fern will sneak around and kill her right in the single second that she casts a spell. Everyone else then has to go fight the others. Some lose, most win. The biggest one is that Ubel is able to beat Sensa's spell. We should talk about that because that is literally the biggest definition of the rules of the magic of this universe. And me and Jeremy fully disagree on this. So the rules are like it's mana level, it's you're learning spells and stuff, but the biggest aspect is your imagination. You have to be able to imagine the spell you do, and then it can work. What they call out in this scene is Ubel was in a tournament against other magicians. There was a guy who magicked himself a cloak of defense.
Well, you're missing a little bit of context. So we learned before the test started that she was in the test 3 years ago to become a first-class mage. But she was disqualified. We didn't know why. And so we get the flashback of Cloak Guy. He's the first-class mage of the 6 years ago.
No, he was just one of the test guys.
No, he was a first-class mage.
Yeah, he was the first class proctor. They mentioned it when they were describing like all the different
he was the
characters at
proctor?
introductions. Yeah, she killed the proctor.
Yeah, and so he was like, anyone that can push me back while I'm wearing this cloak, you're a first-class mage, but if you kill me, then you're not. And she just, it showed a bunch of mages trying to use offensive magic on him, and it wasn't working. And she just imagined cutting his cloak. Unfortunately, cutting his cloak included all of him in the cloak.
Now, what's important to understand why it works for Ubel and like no one else, because it's not like you can't just go up and imagine you can cut the cloak. Because most people would have the fundamental understanding that it was a defensive magic cloak and would not be cuttable. So they couldn't even actually imagine themselves cutting it. But Ubel is both an idiot and a genius, and just doesn't, because she's all intuition, she doesn't think about the practical and what it really is. She just sees cloth, and she imagines her sister was a seamstress, knows what it looks like shears running down cloth, and went right through it.
But the way she describes it is the way a serial killer would describe it.
Yes. Not an idiot. Yes.
She's absolutely psychopathic. But What's interesting about that particular idea that, if you imagine it, it can happen. She does it from a different angle. That's because,
Right.
she didn't go to school. She didn't go to, do any of the regular magic stuff. It all, and I think a lot of it has to do not just with imagination, but belief. I believe I can cut it and I can imagine it being cut. Therefore,
Right.
when I
Which is
cast the spell, it just happens.
the reason I explained it the way I did is because what Sensa is trying to explain here is that you can't just go up and imagine that you can cut it. If you have a fundamental understanding as a human being that that's an uncuttable cloak, you can't imagine past that. You can't imagine past your own understanding. Ubel, because she doesn't understand any of the magic and is all intuition, can imagine anything. That's why she can do things that most mages can't do. But they also explain it is a paper, rock, scissor system with 1,000 weapons.
Mm-hmm.
What is your issue, Jeremy?
So my issue is if the magic system is something where your imagination dictates what your ability can do, what your spell can do, like the intensity of it, what it can cut, where it can reach, what your limitations are, how do you write that in a grimoire?
I would say just a
With
general understanding of it.
probably pen and ink.
So my issue with it is previously to this, it has been established that Frieren is going on a quest initially to collect all these different magical grimoires because that's where you learn spells.
Right.
Now, granted, somebody had to write them, so these spells didn't exist first in a grimoire and then have to, be discovered by people. Somebody came up with the spell and then wrote it. But it had to be something that they could dictate into a book in such a way that you could reproduce it. So if the spells can be written down, then they can't just be a matter of, well, imagine it and you can do it.
But these spells don't seem to have some sort of incantation or come from a divine source, unlike the healing magic.
Mm-hmm.
This seems to just be a use of the mana that you have within yourself, or chi.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, we don't get to read one of the grimoires, so that question is not answerable. But if I were to imagine it, it'd probably be, this is how we did it. These are the steps we followed to get to said goal. And then
What
you
you're
do that.
describing is essentially a ritual in a different amount of words. This is the steps that we followed to get to
Yeah,
our
but
goal.
every spell that we see cast is you must have some set. Well, actually, not all spells need a wand, but most spells you point said wand and you imagine the spell that you want to have happen, and it happens.
But if all it is imagination, then why do these people limit themselves to one spell type? Why limit yourself to water? Why not imagine that water could become ice? That's not really that far from reality. That's easily
Practice.
imagined.
Well,
It doesn't
imagine.
it doesn't seem like practice. It seems like specialization. Like there are
Yeah.
limits and people specialize within those limits. But if it's just imagination, why are there limits? Why do you impose both on me?
So
I mean, it's not just imagination. There has to be a logical understanding. Like you might have to understand how water works on a fundamental level to be able to imagine mana controlling it and manipulating it. So, hey, I went to school and I studied water and how water flows and all the properties of water. And now I can imagine my mana going into it and I control water. And it took me months of research into water to be able to do that.
So it's like Richter, he probably spent his entire lifetime controlling Earth with his mana, right? And even though he may have the imagination to then also manipulate water, since he hasn't done it on a consistent basis like Kana had, he's not going to be as proficient with it. It's just it's more a skill than it is incantations or rituals.
So why is your imagination restricted into the specializations of magic? the problem with this to me is that when you use the word imagination, you open a can of worms.
But they didn't just use imagination. They never said that this is the only thing. They clearly point out like your very basic human understanding. That's why not everyone could just imagine cutting the cloak. Only Ubel, who didn't understand the fundamental aspects of the cloak, could imagine cutting it because she only sees it as a cloak.
I didn't get the impression that she didn't understand it. I got the impression that she denied it.
I think it was just belief. She believed she could.
She
So
doesn't understand magic.
And she doesn't understand magic.
I didn't get the impression she doesn't understand magic. Where did you get that impression?
So, for me, I don't think she reads grimoires.
Yeah,
No,
from
I
Lan.
think that.
Because Lan says, I don't like people like you who don't understand magic, who are just intuition.
Yeah.
Right. But, okay, so the issue that I'm running into here is that I'm wondering where grimoires and actual spells come into play. Did each one of these learn one or more spells in their specialization, and then their imagination just enhances those spells? Is that basically how the system works?
The way guy, I'll never be able to say her name correctly. Sensa. The way Sensa described it, it was less about just being able to imagine things, but the spell that you learned, can you then picture it in your mind's eye? Because if you can't fully picture said spell in your mind's eye and what it's going to do, your spell's going to fail or you're not going to be able to cast it.
So I haven't seen anybody fail to cast a spell yet.
Yeah, that's true. We haven't seen it.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. If there's no just failed spell, it's you don't even get it out of your wand, so you wouldn't see it.
Well, I just mean the anime's never gone out of its way that I've seen to say,
right.
But
hey,
in a sense,
failed.
But okay, sure, that didn't happen. But also in a stressful situation, you're not going to try something new you've never tried before that has a potential to fail. You'd go to your spells that you cast on a normal basis.
Sure. I'm thinking of things that hey, let's use this to clean the copper. Or let's use this to make a flower field. It seems very cut and dry. Like you read the grimoire, now you know the spell. You've added it to your repertoire of spells, and you can just do it now.
So the one I've been thinking of for a few minutes is the sour grapes. So at some point, Frieren read a grimoire about how to make grapes sour. Mm-hmm. I imagine it talks about the fermentation process of grapes and what makes them sweet, what makes them sour, about the natural sugar process. She has to understand the fundamental physics of grapes to be able to then put her mana into grapes and then change that, reverse it one way or the other. I think that's what the grimoires are doing, is they're literally giving you science lessons so that your imagination can then match what you need to do with the spell.
I love that idea, but in an anime that has otherwise presented itself as generic fantasy, it doesn't seem like, my brain says that's not what it is. My brain says that it's a generic spell book that has it probably programs you with magic. I love the idea, though. If that's what it's doing, that would actually work better with the how Jason was describing earlier, that you are researching and studying something like a scholar would, and once you have a deeper understanding of it, then you use your imagination to control it.
Right.
That would be better.
I'll just say what I do like about the system is because a lot of magic systems are just it's magic, just go with it. And the question is always okay, but why have a limit at all other than my MP bar? Why can I cast Firebolt but not Thunderbolt? What's the difference? What does one do with the other? I like the idea of a person's imagination and understanding of the world, filling mana into whatever they do understand and being able to imagine the mana doing that. It's just, for me, this is a system that works better than most that are just it's magic. Don't ask. Like Harry Potter. Harry Potter, hey, you say the words, the thing does the thing because you had a string in your wand. Okay, but so I could just learn any words? I could do anything? Why do I have to practice that? What's changing between A and B? The fact that they came in and said, "Hey, here's the rule system. Here's imagination. Here's this lady who can do something that everyone else that they imagined the exact same thing could not do." And that while it breaks our rule system, it also cements, and makes it work because it is the definition of how the rule system is. For me, that's why it works.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you.
It reminds me of way
Gross.
back in the day when we were talking about when we were talking about like elemental abilities, and how if you have the ability to heat something up, you also have the ability to cool something down, just because you're playing with molecular speed. So
Yeah.
you know, if you're really getting down into the scholarly understanding of how something works, the limitation is just going to be on how well do you understand the thing you are working with and what you're doing to it. And that's where, again, just imagination is a very blurry term that can be easily abused, turned into a deus ex machina to solve whatever you need solved at any given time. If you're like, oh, this lady who has hair that can kill everybody, well, no, this one can just eliminate it because she thinks she can. That could be abused very easily. So that is where I look at the magic system and I hesitate, because I don't think that it has sealed up its vulnerable points.
I'll say for me, the weakness is literally in Lawin and Kana. I understand water, I understand ice. Those are the same thing.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
So you studied water and you studied ice and never once thought, wait.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
okay, I can admit it's not perfect. I still think it's better than most magic systems. All right, now we get to have a fight about doppelgangers.
You're up, Jason.
Frieren and Fern have their battle. Frieren goes all out. It's very pretty. Lots of budget went into this fight. Shadows of dragons on the wall, which was cool. Fern's blasting and it's not working, so Frieren goes bigger because the gap has to be so tiny. What I love about this fight, though, is at the very end, so Fern hits Frieren. It doesn't kill her, but it's a lethal wound. The doppelganger, I should say. Hits the doppelganger, still standing, but it's a lethal wound. And then it does a all-powerful... Fern's like, I can't even sense magic being used. I don't even know what this is, and I'm just slammed into a wall.
Yeah,
And
Darth Vader.
Again, to
She
point out,
imagined it.
the plan is Frieren distracts, Fern kills. But
Yeah.
because Fern was so effective, the Frieren doppelganger literally loses track of the real Frieren because it becomes so focused on Fern. And even Fern points out, you never leave yourself open, but Fern freaked the doppelganger out so bad that Frieren was able to kill it. So Frieren gets the killing blow, but it's all because Fern was so strong, so powerful. That's why it's important it's the doppelganger of Frieren. It fits that theme. It just goes with the theme of the cook. It's going beyond.
Agree. No, I agree that it fits. I find it lazy.
God.
I think it could have been a cooler fight if it just wasn't a doppelganger, if it was like some sort of other monster that they had to learn basically the same lesson.
Just so I can get this off my chest. If you write something that's really cool that has no theme, I think that's lazy. Like if you're not weaving in your theme into your storytelling.
No, I agree that the theme is important, and I like the theme, and I like your explanation. I think your explanation's valid, and I agreed with it at the time that I watched it. I'm just saying, Frieren is so powerful in this world. The only way they were able to threaten her was with another Frieren. That I didn't like.
I just don't agree. We know the Demon King's stronger than her. We know Ciri is stronger than her. I think there's things way more stronger. I think this is all about Fern. It has nothing to do about challenging Frieren. It's about showing Fern's growth on the bar, using Frieren as the meter.
Okay.
There was one line that I really did like, and that was where they were getting ready to go in, and Frieren said, I know you will. I know you'll succeed because I underestimate you. And I thought,
That was a
okay,
good line.
that's a cool line. And just this whole exchange where Fern is pointing out her vulnerabilities and her weaknesses, like where a student says to their master, I see how you could be killed. Like that, you don't see that exchange very often. I liked that a lot.
I also love that Frieren enjoyed it. Like it's this big smile, like, "Oh, you do? That's cool. This is interesting."
Yeah.
That also reminded me of, there's Fern doppelganger out there as well.
Yes.
And so Hypnotoast lady goes, yeah. So with Fern's permission, I tested some restraint spells. It shows her that's like with that expression on her face, I can't move.
Yep.
Or the one where they test on Frieren and then Fern goes and grabs Frieren and is like, "My Frieren, I'm not sharing." Everyone, okay, so everyone that's left gets to the bottom. Frieren, and they're like, "Where's Frieren?" And she's in a mimic. Then
and they killed the boss.
Yeah.
With a wave of a hand, like it was just like, "Puh."
Right, because there's no defenses except for the doppelgangers.
Guys, you're not gonna believe this. Fern, she's grumpy. She's in a bad mood.
You see?
Oh no.
This is what I'm talking about.
No, this is a good one though. I almost like that they use it so much that they can put like important ones in there, and you don't know is this going to be because her boots got dirty or her heirloom from her parent figure was destroyed. Which is what happened here. Her staff was destroyed in that fight, and Frieren told her just get a new one, not realizing that this is the staff she got from Hyder, and so it's super important to Fern.
Sorry, one quick thing that I found really interesting. So when the doppelganger uses that big spell that smashes her staff, Frieren tells Fern, like, wow, I haven't used that spell since the Demon King. Mm-hmm. And so that makes me wonder, was she fatally wounded and had to be during the Demon King and had to be healed?
That's a good question.
She was told the only ones who will kill her is either the Demon King or a human.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, there's a line here from
Richter.
No, there's a line here from Stark that I really love, which is that I know that she didn't understand, but you got to remember she's trying to understand. And as a parent, thank you, Stark. I do try. After Richter, who had failed the test, by the way, was visited by Denkin, who tried to cheer him up in a terrible way. Frieren comes like, "Can you fix the staff?" And he's like, "This is sawdust. What do you want me to do?" And then she's like, "Oh, if you can't do it," he's like, "Well, I could do it."
I didn't say I couldn't.
So he does fix it. And she's like, "Well, I need it by tonight." He's like, "Gosh, dang it." And then later, Stark and Fern come across him, and he's like, "You could have just bought a new one. That would have been better." And Fern realizes what has happened. She goes home, gets her staff, remembers Hyder telling her the thing we talked about Jeremy earlier. Always have your back. And then it's time to get their third test. It's time for the third test. Mm-hmm. And Sari has arrived, and she scolds Sansa for her test. So many people have come through, and she's blaming Frieren. You shouldn't have let Frieren in the test. She's ruining everything. I also skipped a flashback somewhere back there of when. So Flamma.
There's way too many of them.
Shut up. Ciri was Flamma's master, and then Flamma was Frieren's. And Flamma had brought Frieren to meet Ciri, and she's like, "Hey, as the apprentice of my apprentice, what spell do you want?" Because that's her whole thing. She knows all of the spells, right? She's a living grimoire. She can tell you anything. What spell do you want?
Imagination.
Frieren's like, I don't want anything. I want to find spells. Well, getting handed one's dumb. And she's like, "Oh, I hate you. I hate you the most." And then later, Frieren comes back with the living will, the will of Flamma after she dies, saying, "Hey, I've taught humankind magic, and they're going to start doing magic. I talked the king into allowing it." and I want you to head up the Magic Association. Siri's like, that's dumb, rips up the will. And then she's like, Frieren, what's your favorite spell? And Frieren's like, I like the flower spell that Flom loved. And she's like, gosh, you're the worst. I hate you. You're so bad. What's really interesting is, despite that flashback, she is the head of the Magic Association, just like Flama asked. But anyway, yeah, so she's here. She wants to do the test. We get her
Yeah, go ahead.
and the test is literally, oh no, I gotta do one more part. Her oldest guy, very first class, he's like, hey, I could tell that Frieren suppresses her mana because I saw it fluctuate a little bit. And she's like, oh man, yeah, you're so wise. No one was able to see that. And then she walks out and she's like, you can't even tell I'm suppressing mine. You suck. And she makes fun of him to his face. She like basically humiliates him. And she keeps saying stuff like, man, I can't believe I took these people as my apprentice. And I'm like, oh, whatever.
What I did like about this explanation, though, is just like she explains to them that she is doing this quote unquote useless thing because her sole goal in life is to murder demons. And this is the biggest tool for being as successful as she has been. Which like kind of gives you this like thing like how powerful is Frieren? Like we can't tell.
Well, and so for Siri, so this guy is like, I can tell she's suppressing her power. I estimate she's as powerful as you, unreleased. And then, because we're showing the mana, and Siri's like, hers is huge. But then she walks out, and she's like, no, I am suppressing. This is suppressed for me. Anyway, so so now the test. You have to walk into a room with her and talk to her. Kana walks in, fails.
Immediately,
Didn't even say a word.
So good.
Multiple characters. Fail. Frieren walks in. All right, Frieren, what's your favorite spell? I like the flower spell. You fail. You suck. We get a flashback later that happens in this very same scene. But basically, Frieren is like, hey, that's fine. You're not going to fail Fern. She's like, oh, I'm going to fail Fern. I'm going to fail her real bad. It's like, no, you're not. Fern walks in and says, hey, oh, you're suppressing your power, your mana.
Well, and first Siri goes, you're afraid of me. And then she's like, no, you're studying me.
And yeah, Fern's like, you're suppressing your mana. She's like, oh.
And Fern says that I can see the fluctuations. And that really impressed her.
Which again, that old first class mage guy, the first of the best, couldn't do. So she's like, you become my apprentice. I will train you. I'll make you the best of all time.
Even though she just got done saying, I hate humans. I always regret taking them. I'm never taking another one.
Yep.
And Fern's like, no, I got Frieren. And she said you would do this, but you passed me anyway. And she's like, well, you do pass. Get out of here. Denkin goes in. He also passes because for a second he thought about fighting her. And she's like, that's awesome. Good for you.
I like you.
So Denkin passes. Ubel passes. Land, the clone guy, passes because you couldn't even show up for the test. He's like, no, I'm really here. Haha, I'm really here. She's like, no, I know you're not really here. And she turns to like the window and she's like, how's that cup of tea you're drinking in your hometown? And it shows him being like, what? Great twist. I didn't see that coming. That was good.
I didn't either.
Werble passes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said magic is for. He's like, I don't have a favorite spell. I just like magic for killing.
Did Hypnotize Lady
Yeah.
pass? That's right.
The Paladin one did. The full Hypnotist Lady had quit.
Didn't even pass the second one.
Test, yeah. But yeah, the Paladin one that Jeremy talked about earlier, yeah, she did also pass. Because she said she was so pretty.
Yeah, you're cute and pretty and so small. Okay, you pass.
All right, then we go back to everything. Frieren goes and buys some grimoires. Stark and Fern have snacks with Denkin.
There were Udon or whatever her name is passed too.
Ubel, I mentioned Ubel.
Did you? Okay.
There might be someone else I missed.
I think that's everyone.
It don't
Actually,
matter.
Ubel's the only one that walked in and she goes, "You pass," and like she didn't say a word.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting because like some people know probably that's not good for the world. Like that's not the best. Denkin's happy because now he can. His whole thing was he wanted to go see his dead wife's grave up in the north. Oh, we had a conversation with Werble. So Werble sees a woman who dropped her oranges, a shop lady, and he helps pick them up. And he and Frieren talk, and he's like, "Why didn't you help?" And she's like, "Why did you? I thought you were just like this killer." He's like, "No, I actually want to be a hero, and I grew up on tales of Himmel, and I always thought like, oh, he slayed the dragon and did all this stuff, but the stories that were always told to me were like he helped the old lady cross the street, and I realized that that's what made my town." That's what saved my town, not the big heroic stuff. It's the little stuff, and so that's the kind of hero I want to be. And oh my god, this anime understands Superman, and when 99% of the world doesn't, this anime gets it, and I got real happy and real excited. This is my favorite scene, especially Frieren remembering having this conversation with Himmel about why he did this kind of stuff, and him just saying, "I know we should just go kill the Demon King, but I gotta help people who need help, and I want to make the world a better place." And her saying, "You did change the world." And, oh, that was a good moment.
I was bored.
Yeah, I bet you don't understand Superman either.
He hits things really hard.
He's One Punch Man, right?
Yeah,
He can beat Goku.
that's right. That's what matters.
I think this and then the next flashback that's coming. What I really liked about him is the first half of the anime. She's figuring out through her flashbacks and remembering that Himmel loved her. But I think what's happening here in these last two flashbacks is she's coming to the realization that she also had feelings for him, or at least she's developing them now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's definitely developing them now. That's what the ED is all about.
The ED is about Fern.
No, it's not.
Well, the lyrics aren't. You're right.
Yeah.
I think she realized she was in love with him when she cried at his funeral. I think that was the moment.
I think she started to have feelings there, but I think that was mostly regret.
Yes, I agree that it's regret, and it was also her being shocked that she was even crying.
But I don't think she had like love feelings for him, and I think she's just discovering that now.
Yeah, I think we just have a difference in what love is. Just... Are you saying she's starting to understand that, or starting to grow the feelings now? Because I think she already grew the feelings and just didn't realize they were there.
I think that. I think she didn't understand, because I don't think she's ever had a romantic relationship, because since she was a little girl, it's murder all the demons time. So she really hasn't had a chance to like get into that. And through the regret, through the lessons that she learned through the party and remembering and pondering on those things, she's now coming to the realization, oh, I did have feelings for him.
I did miss a really important flashback, which is when Sari's like, "How did you even beat the Demon King?" She's like, "I didn't do it alone. I did it with a powerful group of friends." And then the flashback shows Himmel explaining why he chose Frieren, which is because when he was a little boy, he got lost in the woods, and Frieren found him and pointed him the right way. And although she was the cold, meanest lady he's ever met, she did her Field of Flowers spell to make him feel better. And so now that Field of Flowers spell has huge oh, I can't curse on this podcast.
Well, and then she points out, oh, by the way, I can tell the flowers you're staring at, you created with the
No, that's not yet.
Oh, but
that's a different.
What do you mean that's not yet?
That's a flashback for this moment later. Did you know? Do you not have notes?
No, I don't have your notes.
Okay. It's the night they're supposed to get their spell. So Fern gets to go wish for any spell she wants for becoming a first class mage, and Frieren is banned from it. So her and Stark go way outside from 1,000 years.
Any of the administration buildings.
Anyway, that old guy, that first class mage comes out, and he's like, "Hey, Frieren, I'm gonna murder you because I have no legacy. Basically, my master has scolded me for sucking, and I need to do something so she feels she did something worth it. So I'm gonna kill you, so I have something, even if it's infamy. At least she'll have created an apprentice that did something.
A memory.
So he attacks Frieren, and Frieren basically takes the hit and is like, "You're an idiot." And then we flash back to Siri had done Flama's spell, and when Frieren asked her about it, she's like, "I remember every one of them. Yeah, they're all disappointments, but I think about them all the time." Which again, she's running the Magic Association just like Flama has. She does the flower spell. She cares about every single one of these apprentices, which comes back to what Jeremy was talking about do these elves even care about these people? Are they just pets to them? No, they are very important people in their lives that carry with them forever. That's what it was doing. The story is so well written. I'm so mad.
Okay, to clarify, I'm not saying that they don't care about the people. I'm saying that the people are going to pass, so remember them fondly. And why is there even a story about remembering them fondly? Because, duh, obviously.
You made it clear. I just love that it all comes around full circle. It, like what the question the story is setting up is answered here. But not specifically in your face. It's just there.
So who's the antagonist?
Time.
So bored.
Oh my god.
The friends we made along the way.
Yeah, exactly. There's no antagonist.
Okay, the ending. They leave the town. We get to see Starks giving Wish goodbye. Again, he is the reimagining of Himmel. He's doing the small stuff, just like we were shown in the last episode. We find out the spell Fern wished for was a laundry spell.
And Siri's so mad.
Siri is so pissed about it, which is the best part. Like, are you freaking insane? Yeah, Fern has a spell that can get her clothes clean to the smallest stitch. Perfect. Carrying on the legacy, but not just preserving it. That is what it's all about. Then they say goodbye to Lowin and Kana are like outside the gate, and they say goodbye really quickly and leave. Just to set up the scene. I would have preferred Denkin or almost anyone else, but anyway, they say goodbye really quickly, and they ask, "Why do we always say goodbye so quickly?" Because they did do that with Cyan as well. And Frieren remembers Himmel used to do the same thing, and she asked him why, and he says, "Because when we meet again, it'll be embarrassing."
It's amazing how this like over 1,000-year-old person does everything because this dead friend that she knew for 10 years did it. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
She knew him for 60.
No, she didn't. She knew him for 10 years, and then she went off into the forest.
10 years, but she knew him for that.
If she didn't talk to him for 50 years, that does not count.
You brought up this complaint in the first part. No one agrees with you.
I don't remember bringing
You're on
this
an island.
up.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I did not say she does everything. No, I didn't. I did not say that.
You didn't understand why the 10 years would be so important to someone who lives a lifetime. It's almost the exact same.
That's not my point. My point is she doesn't do things because she thinks they're good things to do. She does things because Himmel did them. And I think that's dumb.
Can't it be both?
No, she's over 1,000 years old. You're telling me that this little measly human who she knew for 10 years figured life out more than she did? Like, on everything? I could see it on a few things, but like, how many flashbacks where, why did she do this? Because Himmel did it. Why did she do this? Because Himmel liked it. Why did she do this? Because Himmel thought about it. Come on!
Because she doesn't realize that she's in love with him.
This is a shoujo pretending to be a shonen.
Shots fired. That should have been your hot take.
That's my hot take now.
I want to go back to something. I love the line because it'll be embarrassing the next time we meet. Because it's really, what it's really saying is, in my heart, I'm hoping we meet again. That's why he says goodbyes quickly. That's so cool. And I love that they don't just say it. They say something else. And it has another meaning. It has a layer. Anyway, then the end credits song plays while we get to see everyone that Frieren has said goodbye to and where they are, including just Graves. And I got misty-eyed at the song. It hit me harder than I ever did in the end credits. It was good. It was good. I love that trope. It worked great. We got to go to final reviews, unless anyone has any additional thoughts.
No.
Final reviews. Jason, kick us off.
Wow. Just thoroughly enjoyed my time with this anime. Had a few possible nitpicks, but I think they don't detract from the layering storytelling and the just absolute joy of watching these character buildings. Yeah, it's 5 for me. Oh, and the whole thing as well. All of it. Just all the yeah.
All right, Jeremy, how about you?
This was better than the first half. It would have been even better if I hadn't seen the first half and I wouldn't know the context, because then I would have all kinds of ideas that would make it more interesting. So,
I'll bet.
yeah, well, in my head. So yeah, the combats it was pretty, it was nice, but I'm still bored. I need there to be a reason to do the things they're doing. And
they gave them, but whatever.
Sorry,
this is your review. This is your review.
Yes,
my bad.
a good reason. I'm glad you made me clarify. So I got to give this a 3.5.
No.
For the second half.
No.
Because it is better.
I hate 0.5.
So I guess
0.5s are just changing it to a 10-point scale. It's just cheating.
So does that mean we round up to a 4?
In this case, it is so close, but not quite. So this will be a 3, but know that it was a better 3 than the first half. It's a high 3.
It's a high 3.
It's a high 3.
It's a 5, but
for the record, I don't even like doing a point score. I think this part's ridiculous.
Hey, it has to be measured.
You're right. You gotta have data.
Yes.
It's a 5 for me. I've already talked too much about this anime. I love it. I'm gonna watch the next season. I'll wait with bated breath to watch it.
I'm surprised you haven't delved into the manga yet.
I thought about it. I'm not doing the Spy Family manga. I don't think comedy works for me in manga form. I prefer it in the anime form. I think I want to see this as an anime. I like the flow of the action and stuff, and the music. It's the music. I'll be honest. It's the music. This without the music is not the pinnacle of anime that it is. The music is the secret sauce, guys. It's a 5 for me. Our next anime is Mashle.
Mashle.
Because Jeremy picked it, it's going to be terrible.
It is. This is my revenge.
It's going to be hard to switch. Like, I'm going to need a palate cleanser, something in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is up next. The first 12 episodes, which is just the first season. I'm not going to watch it. I've already read way past the anime. It's fine.
Oh.
You traitor.
Yeah.
We have multiple times reviewed anime that one of us has already watched.
Not sure I can forgive you on this one, though.
Okay.
That's good.
I'm not going to skip watching the anime or anything. I'll still have all my original thoughts. I haven't shared anything.
Just be like, the manga was better. The manga was better.
I'm going to be like so superior. Guys, you wouldn't understand. It's in the manga.
Yeah.
Hey, if you have comments, if you want to tell us about mangas, about Frieren's Beyond Journey End, or tell us why we were right, why we were wrong, tie the martyr up and burn the witch, you can, please be nice. Again, it is hard to be in his seat. It really is. We've all done it. It kind of sucks.
It's kind of fun, too.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it's been a lot of fun to troll.
Yeah, it definitely has its moments. All right. If you have thoughts and comments, please leave them on our Twitter at Baka Podcast or our website, theanimebakaclub.com. Hit that contact us button. That comes straight to us, and we respond back to you, start that discussion, or wherever you found this, YouTube, whatever. Reviews, great way to just kind of start conversations with 5 stars. 5 stars, I think Jeremy's review opinion sucks. That works.
Hey, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, that's right. For 5 stars, you can call me a
Yeah.
monkey. I don't care.
That's right.
Let's go. All right, that's we're done. Let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
There's a 1% chance that this episode might be interesting.
Sayonara.